What is going on, everybody? It is episode 503 of Pop Culture Crisis. My name is Brett, and I am here with my co-host. Would you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, Crisis Actors. It's Mary. Last night, we finally dropped the full video of our interviews at the Daily Wire Lady Ballers premiere. So if you haven't watched that yet, wait until after the show, then watch it. And if you have, thank you for checking it out. That was exciting.
Yes, absolutely. It was a lot of fun to go and do that. The video came out. Wesley did a really good job making that. So it was a lot of fun. Guys, we got a bunch of stuff to get into today. The beginning segment's going to be like, I realize we have like a lot of topics in there, but we got a bunch of really interesting stuff to talk about today. First things first, Ricky Gervais is in trouble again. He has made some jokes at the expense of terminally ill children
and snails.
And so people are now asking the question, has he gone too far? Is it okay to make fun of kids with cancer? I put a poll up today. I said, look, is it all right? Is it okay to make jokes about terminally ill children? Right now, the answer is 79% of you are saying acceptable. We will let that poll run to the end of the show, and we will see where it goes. Also, Jonathan Major's trial has begun, and the defense is claiming that this is all a revenge plot on behalf of his ex-girlfriend, Grace Jabari, who is just trying to get back at him for dumping her after all of his success. So we're going to get into that. We're also going to talk about this absolutely bonkers story about a former Disney executive named David Hollis turned lifestyle influencer, like life improvement influencer, who died clutching his phone. He had internet addiction and he died of a drug overdose. The story is absolutely crazy. So we're going to get into it. It's quite a read. Also, there is an influencer named Sky Wheatley. She was on Big Brother Australia. I'm sure we've got plenty of people from Australia watching right now. And she went kind of viral because there's this video of her son throwing a tantrum in a store. And she basically, in the video, says, I'll give you what you want if you just stop complaining. And look, as somebody who worked retail for a lot of years, worked at a convenience store for a lot of years, I saw a lot of kids throw tantrums. And I saw a variety of parents handle this in a variety of different ways.
This was specifically at a Kmart, which I didn't know was still thriving in the UK.
Must be still bigger in the UK because you definitely don't see them here as much. Or at least, I think I've made this point before. Like, look, if you were looking for drugs, you looked for the local Kmart because there tended to be a lot of drug deals going on in the parking lot.
Behind the Kmart dumpster.
In the parking lot of the Kmart because there was nobody there. So we're going to get into this story about the influencer. We got a bunch of other stuff to get into. But before we get started, guys, would you hit the like button on this video? And would you subscribe to this channel if you have not subscribed here already? Please and thank you very much for that. Share the video with your friends. The more people who see these videos, the more people that join us. And hopefully, the more people that subscribe and come and hang out with us on a regular basis. Also, remember, all super chats, as always, $20 and over. We will interrupt the discussion. We will read those super chats right then and there. Perhaps you have questions, comments, concerns. Perhaps you have strong opinions on Ricky Gervais that just can't wait for the segment and you want to tell us now. You can super chat that now. We will read them right then and there, and then we will get back on topic before once we're done. So before we get started, though, I do have something I want to point out today. Yes, allow us to shill very quickly, and we don't do that with this very much, guys. But we do have merch, or we've had merch. We've got Let's Go mugs.
Let's go on a mug, and it says if you buy it today, it will arrive by Christmas.
Yes.
Put some hot chocolate in that bad boy.
Here's what's interesting. I saw somebody in the comments earlier. I'm sorry, I don't remember who it was, but somebody pointed out I've never owned a black mug before. But they like the black mug better than the white mug. And I was thinking about that because the mug was just
it'll show if you're racist if you buy the white one versus the black one.
So decide whether you're racist or not by deciding which one of the mugs you're looking for. I actually like the hoodie as well, too.
Yeah, not to mention our TV logo hoodie.
Which I forgot that
it's something that doesn't have the name of our show on it. So it's something if you wear it and you come across another crisis actor in the wild, you will both both know what it's referencing, so that's kind of cool.
Dude, the Crisis actor merch was nixed. We were not allowed.
That was not allowed. Yeah, we were.
So somebody's saying I'm not reading that shirt. Somebody would like an I'm not reading that shirt.
Really?
Yeah. They're saying,
my idea was something different that I'm not going to say out loud.
Yes.
But you'll see maybe in the near future.
So there it is. Somebody says, can I get a zip up? Look, pullover hoodie supremacy all day. I will
like
never.
A zip up.
Me and Mary will disagree on this until the end of time.
Look, a zip up is lower commitment. You know, I might want to just have it like hanging off my shoulders.
I guess it's different
whatever.
because of hair for you. Like maybe it's different for a guy. Like I'm just taking it off and putting a hat back on anyways.
Me taking off a pullover hoodie is a whole operation.
Yeah, like for me, I saw this great meme the other day and I reposted it. It's like a picture of it's like a wavy piece of paper. It says me when I sit down with the zip hoodie, and I said this is exactly why the internet was made, right? Because it's exactly what it looks like when you sit down with the zip hoodie. I prefer the pullover hoodie, so I'm glad that that's what they have. I'm guessing that it's just more expensive. We would probably have to custom make zip hoodies, but American Apparel isn't even a thing anymore, right? So
yeah, it is. Los Angeles Apparel is what it's called now.
It's called,
Doug Charney is still alive and on top. So.
Is that he still runs it too?
Yeah,
same guy.
Yeah, he does.
Okay, all right.
He still recruits all the models and everything.
So guys, there is a Let's Go mug that you can get. Let's go.
To perfectly express your enthusiasm and uncertainty about the day.
Yeah, we can talk about that. Everybody should go and pick one up and get one for the holidays, I say. All right, let's go ahead and get started then, shall we? Now that we've shilled slightly. There was Discussing Film put out a quick list of all the things that look like they're going to be coming out in 2025. This is a look at it, and it's kind of interesting. So we've got GTA 6, which we are going to be talking about a little bit here today. Avatar 3, which is already coming up.
Yes.
You know, that doesn't feel, I guess it was 2022 when Avatar 2 came out.
Don't care about Avatar, but apparently the rest of the world does.
Yep. The Batman 2.
Lame.
Fantastic Four. There's already problems with that. I was reading an article earlier saying that the actors are having problems with the chemistry testing portion of it.
For the Batman?
No,
or Fantastic
for
Four?
Fantastic Four.
Oh, okay.
And so
maybe they shouldn't have announced the casting then if there were going to be issues.
Probably shouldn't have done that. Shrek 5 is rumored.
I don't understand the obsession with Shrek, specifically from millennials.
Yeah.
Like, I watched Shrek as a kid, but it never became my entire identity.
Yeah.
Puss in Boots is really... I'm bullish on Puss in Boots, bearish on Shrek 5.
I think part of it comes to the meme culture. Of
It's the memes,
It's the meme culture. One of the more prevalent ones that I see recently, it says girls don't actually like dad bods, and then it says explain Shrek then. It's a meme. It's meme culture. Also, it had the
Get
Smash
an ogre
Mouth.
That likes you even though you look like him.
Yeah. It had the Smash Mouth song, which was very memeable.
That guy died recently.
Yep. Yeah, earlier this year. Live action Minecraft and Superman Legacy all looking to come out in 2025. And I'm sure a lot of other things.
Well, this is good stuff from DC. People are saying this makes 2024 feel like a filler year, and the box office for this Christmas definitely feels like they just kind of threw it together. They didn't have any plans.
I think part of it is also because 2024 is going to fail to get a lot of stuff out because of the strike. So stuff's going to take longer to produce. Stuff is just going back into production now. What was I looking at earlier? Some movie or television show just got finished and it had exactly 1 day left to film before the strike.
That must have.
And just imagine all the money they're losing there.
Yeah.
Waiting for that to complete. How does that one, and I wish I could remember off the top of my head what it is. Imagine not getting a waiver for that one. You should have just dumped a bunch of money into a lobbyist who can get you the waiver from the union,
right,
and get your movie finished. But yeah, so speaking of Grand Theft Auto, guys. Oh, no, we want to talk actors on actors.
Right. One more thing that we unfortunately have to anticipate this year is Variety's Actors on Actors series. If you haven't seen this, it's just where they sit two actors down to cry and clap over each other's accomplishments and congratulate each other, pat each other on the back for simply existing. And they released the list of the people who are going to be paired up. So the first one is an obvious pair. Cillian Murphy and Margot Robbie, so they can have a trendy Barbenheimer discussion. They already did the Robert Downey Jr. and Mark Ruffalo one.
I think they did the Cillian Murphy and the Margot Robbie one too, because they were asked about Barbenheimer memes, and Cillian Murphy was like, "You couldn't escape that stuff."
Okay, the one I am really looking forward to is Rachel Zegler and Halle Bailey, because we know that the intention behind pairing those two up is so they can talk about all of the racial discrimination and misogyny that they were subjected to for becoming 2023's Disney princesses.
I suppose the same will happen. Well, that's sad too, because she's not even the Disney princess yet.
She's not even in the movie yet.
But Jeffrey Wright and Taraji P. Henson will be the same, but it will be about overcoming racism as people who are older in Hollywood.
Emily Blunt and Anne Hathaway. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it does. They're like generic, well-received actress lady who like. I would put like there's a younger version of that with like Anya Taylor-Joy and some other actress where or like Emily Blunt is just who you put in the movie when you need the A-list lady, and like Blake Lively could have ended up there if she hadn't gotten married and. Yeah.
And like had a real life.
Yeah.
Emma Stone and Bradley Cooper. I just want to say I'm throwing a major side eye to Emma Stone and Mark Ruffalo because of the movie Poor Things.
Yeah. I didn't see that.
If we haven't talked about it on the show yet, I'm not sure if we did. The premise of this movie is a mad scientist somehow puts the brain of an infant into the body of an adult woman. And some of the things that she is portrayed doing are downright pedophilic. Okay? They're suggesting that if an infant's brain were in an adult woman's body, that she would be having sex with adults.
Yeah.
And that was in the trailer. That was part of the whole premise of the movie. And all of the art nerds are saying, if you don't understand how this is actually just an interesting artistic interpretation, then you aren't media literate enough, and you're just an old conservative who doesn't understand art.
What's the word
But this is glorifying pedophilia, okay?
Fuddy-duddy.
A fuddy-duddy, if you will. I am so tired of people glorifying debauchery and specifically pedophilia under the guise of art.
What about raunch?
Balenciaga did it. It wasn't cool when they did that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just major side eye to Mark Ruffalo and Emma Stone for that.
Mark Ruffalo and Robert Downey Jr. will just be lame Mark Ruffalo and vegan Robert Downey Jr., who's not the Robert Downey Jr. of old anymore.
The rest of the people on this list are not really interesting to me.
I haven't really seen, like, the only thing I think about when I think of Emma Stone is I just watched The Amazing Spider-Man when we were in Nashville, because I had to watch cable rather than like.
I miss when Emma Stone played Emma Stone
Yeah.
in every movie instead of a baby.
I enjoy Michael Fassbender. Like, look, I really loved the movie The Killer this year, so I guess I could find hearing him talk about something interesting. But for the most part, like, and that's funny because when I was watching the Jeremy Johns review for that movie, he's like, yeah, it made me think, like, remember like 5 years ago when Michael Fassbender was in like everything? And he was. There was a time period
and
where
he got blacklisted. No.
I don't know. No, it's not really what happened. I mean, for a lot of them, I think like, what did I sing the other day that Nicolas Cage is like, he's like, I'm thinking I'm like 3 or 4 movies away from retirement. And I'm thinking about this guy who's just made like 800 million movies because he had to pay off that tax debt he had for all of those years. But also, like, apparently they're putting Lord of War 2 into development. And I don't know how you do Lord of War 2, but it'll be interesting to see if they can pull that off because I love the original Lord of War. Yeah. But yeah, like...
the Robert Downey Jr. and Mark Ruffalo one was clearly like, look at these two actors that started out in lowly Marvel movies and have grown past that.
No, I
to
don't
do
think
more
that's what it
mature
is.
projects like Poor Things.
I don't
about
think people,
babies who
like,
have sex.
The only thing Robert Downey Jr. has done that's really been successful since
Oppenheimer
was Oppenheimer.
Yeah,
he did that really, really bad Dr. Dolittle movie that nobody liked in 2017.
I think he needs an intervention so that he can do away with this whole vegan nonsense.
Well, what he really needs to do is they need to make Tropic Thunder 2. That would be his
not going to happen.
That would be his well, no, cuz like I mean, I know it won't happen, but I'm saying that Ben Stiller said he would do it. Like Ben Stiller.
It's kind of crazy how realistic he looked in that blackface.
We
right?
should, if only we could live stream that one and like have like a watch party of that. That would be great. All right. If you guys didn't see it yesterday, GTA 6 is smashing records. The trailer leaked online, and they had to just do what they do sometimes, which is release it. There's a couple of movies in the past. A couple of Marvel movies had trailers leak, and then they just have to release it because there's nothing they can do about it.
Some rogue person in Rockstar Games decided to just post it on YouTube. I don't get it.
I guess. So it says GTA 6 smashes Mr. Beast's YouTube record as reveal sets the internet on fire. So the record before, it was the most views on a video in the first 24 hours. And the record was previously set by Mr. Beast. It was like 58 something million.
You know what this means, though? Mr. Beast is just going to take it as a challenge, and he's going to try to beat the record again.
To beat it, yeah. This one now, with just 21 hours online, is sitting at 83,506,000. No, it's got copyrighted music.
Oh,
but
damn.
it is.
People
it is
just really want to be single mothers.
Well, she's not a single mom in the trailer. She's got a boyfriend or a partner. It's very Bonnie and Clyde. The trailer.
Right. Yeah.
I enjoyed it. It's like the other thing about it is they said they didn't know who the voice actress was, and I'm taking it as a challenge because I listened to it about 5 times, and I can it's like right there on the. I bet you I know who it is. I just can't place it. Right?
Yeah.
Like the voice sounds unbelievably familiar to me. But I want to see it, and I think the game looks fine. Like people were like, "Oh, all the violence." I'm like, so it's a Grand Theft Auto game.
Well, one of those people was Elon Musk.
Yes, Elon Musk was not happy about this.
Tried but didn't like doing crime. GTA 5 required shooting police officers in the opening scene. I just couldn't do it.
Shut up, nerd.
That's literally the point of
It's
GTA.
called Grand Theft Auto. Shut up, nerd.
You're a criminal. Yeah.
I love you, Elon Musk, but shut up, nerd. Like you're a dork.
He's a little bit of a Blue Lives Matter shill. It's fine.
Yeah, it's but I enjoyed the trailer, and the funny thing is like Linda from Mostly Peaceful Latinas, who we've had on the show, said she took like a screenshot of the game and said this is absolutely an accurate representation of South Beach during spring break. And
That's terrifying.
And you get the inclusion of like social media on this one with like the live stream scenes and stuff. So it looks interesting. And I don't know if, because there's a part in the game where she's meeting with like a counselor or something, and she basically shrugs off what happened, and so she gets caught at the end. It looks like an interesting enough story, but it'll be funny to watch and see how this does. But people are going to be pissed because they've got to wait like another 2 years.
Really?
2025.
That's crazy.
2025 when it comes out. So, and then, I mean, if somebody in the chat can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe, like with most of these games, it will get released on Xbox and PlayStation 5 first, and then it'll take another year before it makes it to PC. It'll go console first,
Remember when,
and then be ported later.
We talked about GTA 6 with Lauren Southern all those months ago.
Feels like a fever dream, doesn't it?
Then somebody reached out to us to ask if they could use the footage for
like
a
BBC documentary
about it.
Yeah.
That never came to fruition.
I don't know if that ever happened, but I was like, I don't even know if like, I think I asked Tim about it. I'm like, can they do that? And he's like, I don't think it matters because it's like on YouTube or whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Doesn't that feel like a lifetime ago?
Yeah.
Like literally a lifetime ago?
Yeah. And I also drove her back to her hotel afterwards and almost got into a car crash. But I was like, I'm an Aquarius. Or I'm just a Capri Sun. Oops. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's you should play the game.
She was fine with it.
You should play the game and then live stream
crash my car and say
crash your car and say, "Oops, I'm a Capri Sun."
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see how it turns out, but that's a long ways off for a lot of people. And like I said, so it'd be 2 years before it's released, another year before console. Or I'm sorry, from console to.
They're gonna put it on Netflix. I'm telling you right now.
It will not go on.
They're
Netflix.
playing the long game.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. It'll be years in the making. Netflix games could be bigger by that point. Could actually
that would
be a thing.
So gay, but
could be actually be a thing by that point. So, all right. So, if you needed more of a reason to
a kick in the pants, you know?
If you need more of a reason to get physical media, we do have a story that's absolutely going to confirm that to you guys. There was this article where they're basically talking about how if you're a PlayStation user, that they are going to be removing a bunch of the legally purchased content that you bought. Gone. This has been going on since the iTunes days, right? So what would happen is you would buy something, and what iTunes would have a license to have this product on there.
Okay.
And then one day you would go on there and you'd be like, "Ooh, I want to watch my movie."
You're telling me this for the first time.
Okay. I don't know if you ever had an iTunes before, but you would go on there to watch it and it would say unavailable, or it would just not be there. And you'd be like gaslighting yourself. Did I buy this? I swore I bought this. So you never owned any of these things. It was always something that you were basically just borrowing
Look,
from.
I'm just going to be real with you, though. I know that this is ridiculous and they're literally stealing your money, but there is nothing that's going to make me start a CD collection or a DVD collection. I'm not doing it.
I think for a lot of people, I think it's one of the reasons
Maybe
why
in my
vinyl-
apocalypse shelter, I'll bring some DVDs with me.
I think one of the reasons that people enjoy vinyl so much is they turn listening to vinyl and the consumption of the media into ritual. Right?
Yeah.
So it's something that it's different to sit down and consume the media, and it's a great thing if you can turn it into something that becomes communal. So for a lot of the people that I know, when they have their DVD collections, it's because them and their, him and his wife or him and the kids, they will go and they consume these medias. Also, you lose a lot of things. Like one of the things I love about old movies and television is the bonus features. Mm-hmm. I love the ability to get the bonus features, the featurettes about how it was made. Audio commentary is a big thing for me. I love to watch movies. Like once I've consumed a movie enough times, I more often than not watch the audio commentary version after
Actually,
that.
a lot was lost to the culture when we stopped having DVD menu screens.
So every skate video that we made, we created we had the secret menus, right? So that you had to click off to a certain area and find a secret area of the video that had extra bonus features that were not in the traditional bonus features one. Also, this one video that somebody made, the menu screen would run, right? So you got your DVD menu screen, so it runs for a certain length of time, and then it resets. Mm-hmm. So his would it would reset a certain amount of times, right? So say it resets 15 times. On the 16th time, it cuts to a video where a guy just screams as loud as he can into the microphone and wakes you up. Because the only reason you're ever leaving it on is if you're falling asleep, right? So it says in the latest reminder that the concept of digital purchases is at its core anti-consumer, Sony has announced that thanks to a licensing hiccup, PlayStation users who played the system's signature store to acquire various Disney Discovery Channel series properties will soon lose wholesale access to their personally owned content. Announcing this move on December 2nd, legal notice, Sony informed its customers that as of the 31st of December, due to our content licensing arrangement with content providers, you will no longer be able to watch any of your previously purchased Discovery content, and that the content will be removed from your video library. Guess what? You ain't getting a refund.
No.
You ain't getting a refund for this. This is worse than when you have to pay the late fee when you won't understand what this means. But back in the day when you returned a video to Blockbuster after not returning it.
I get the concept.
Yes. You would get in trouble. Somebody also said to me recently that apparently they would charge you if you didn't rewind it. I don't think that ever happened to me. It says, per a list by Sony, over 1,000 titles will be affected as part of this change, including such series as American Chopper, Mythbusters, My Strange Addiction, and Through the Wormhole with Morgan Freeman. I know, right? As of this writing, neither Sony nor Discovery have offered any public clarification as to which exact aspect of their content licensing agreement resulted in this development. My guess would be that, look, they're going to want, now that these streaming services all have their own, like Warner has their own services, Discovery has its own streaming service, they want to push you to theirs and not having you watching it through these other services. So if one day I woke up and I was watching, I like Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives. Like if I woke up one day and I was getting Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives on some other service, and I'm like, I just need my Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives, they're like, no, you can only get it on Max. That's not going to happen. It says, further, it notably appears Sony will not be offering any refunds for any content affected by this change. That was never going to happen.
I saw a comment yesterday that said, Mary promoting piracy, bold move.
Do you consider that a bold move?
I don't. I think that this is the most self-explanatory thing in the world. I'm trying to be cheeky about it because, you know, it's up to you whether you want to do that.
Yeah.
But the way that they are treating your money, it's not exactly in the interest of the consumer. So do with that information what you will. Make informed decisions about how you make your purchases.
And like for me, what I used to do is, so I was a pirate for many years. I don't anymore. I don't have the time.
I would just say at this point, the way things are on these streaming services, it's so egregious that there's no ethical problem with doing that.
The other thing was like, I have like 3 or 4 external hard drives filled with TV shows.
We got a $20 one from Cody Boudreau. I'm not gonna read that. Are you, Brett?
No, I'm
All
sorry,
right.
Corey.
Cody.
Who is it, Corey?
Yeah.
Yeah, like Corey, what you should do, buddy, you should ask the PlayStation Store for money back so that you can give your sister half the money. That's what you should do.
All right.
There you go. I don't have a problem with physical media, and one of the things is like right now I'm not using it a lot, but I have a large collection of DVDs and stuff like that. But I do also think it's one of those things that maybe it's a bit easier when you're older and you develop a ritual around when you watch your media. Like if you don't have the time to watch stuff on a regular basis, right? Maybe it's more of a thing where it's like, okay, it's a Saturday night. I have time to sit down and really watch a movie that I love. It's why people buy like the steel books of these movies and they buy the remastered editions, because for the people who actually love the art form of filmmaking and they want to see it in the best possible resolution, you know, streaming content isn't necessarily what they want. They want to own the physical copy so that they can be immersed in the most real version of it that they can get. So the cinephiles, the film buffs, they're going to love stuff like that. It's also, it creates its own market, where I just saw a thing today where WWE they're suspending their home video department, so none of their pay-per-views are going to be made available on DVD anymore. And a bunch of the people in the comments were saying like, look, I haven't bought a DVD from them in years, but it makes me sad that they've stopped making these, because like WWE home video or WWF home video was such a big thing back in the 90s. So a lot of people who kept buying them strictly out of like habit and a sense of completionism, where they needed to get all of them, right? So people who have these large DVD collections or these large Blu-ray collections, it's not just about the media, the movie itself, it's about the artwork, it's about the pamphlet on the inside, you know, various things like that.
Yeah, that's why I never understood Criterion Collection, but I get that there's certain audience for it. It's
somebody says, what's a DVD? It's why people buy the steel books of these things, because it becomes more than just the movie itself. For me, like I've actually said, I would pay extra for a streaming service that put the audio commentaries of these shows on there. Or even this, if they could get one of these streaming services to get these actors together and record one for every episode of these seasons, I would pay a premium to be able to see audio commentaries for every episode of a show. You and what army? Is the point. I'm not saying that a bunch of people would do it, but I would pay extra, like, or like you don't even necessarily. You and the rest of people that contribute to IMDb trivia sections are going to be buying that. Well, yeah. Oh man, you and the dozens of other customers. I had some great ones over the weekend. I committed 2 new ones to the trivia section over the weekend, and the worst feeling I've realized, the worst is when you're about to type it up and you realize that somebody's already put in the trivia part that you want to put in there. Beat you to it. That shit blows my mind and really makes me sad when you see that. So yeah, it says, from video game giant Capcom declaring war on the practice of modding video games, to Crunchyroll and Sony taking previously to watch anime simulcasts behind a newly introduced subscription tier. They're just finding all the ways they can to siphon as much money out of you as possible. It's very sad. So. All right. What else do we have? Oh, other Kim people Kardashian. Who work to siphon as much money as possible out of you. She's a divorce lawyers, guys.
Kim Kardashian is about to play a divorce lawyer in Ryan Murphy's new legal drama on Hulu. What is this called again? Feud?
Yeah.
Feud. Okay. And then she's also going to be in The Fifth Wheel, this female-driven comedy movie that's coming out. And she's in the new season of American Horror Story.
So she's legit making a go at acting.
She's really ramping up her acting career. I have no idea how she makes the time for it. As a full-time mom, a full-time businesswoman, and a student of the law, trying to become a lawyer at the same time. Truly a woman who's a jack of all trades.
Well, maybe what she's doing is that she's like hoping that she can play a TV lawyer and then people will forget that she was going to be a real lawyer and they'll like meld the two together. And she's like, she was so great when she was a real lawyer playing a lawyer on TV.
She knows just enough about the law to play a lawyer on TV, but not to actually be one.
Also, it's an all-female law firm in Los Angeles. Now,
what is this?
I'm going to say this right here. It would be super funny if it's just a bunch of women representing high class men, like men. Just men destroying women
Not
at
likely.
divorce court.
Not likely. I wonder what Kanye is going to think of this, though.
It's just because, like you were saying before, you're like, look, lawyers, they're the last people that are allowed to really be
They can
mean.
say whatever they want.
They can be awful to everyone.
It's just part of the job.
Right? I was watching an old episode of Criminal Minds, and it's really funny how they used to turn the narrative on their head. And it's this episode where this female prosecutor asks Hotch and Rossi to help her shore up a case against this woman who killed her husband, saying that like basically the woman's claiming spousal abuse. And they're like, well, that is possible, right? She's like, why is it that every time a woman claims spousal abuse, a man thinks, like, they turn it around, right? So the female's the one, they show that she's a hard ass by saying that she's not taking the woman's side just because she's a woman. And that's how Hollywood used to be able to subvert expectations, right? Yeah. Because in this thing, you would expect the men to be the ones who are like, well, you know, who believes that, right? But that's not what it was. They need to do that with this show. She needs to just be really, really anti-woman. It would be funny.
What she wants to be is a criminal defense lawyer, right? In real life.
Yes.
She
wants her own OJ trial.
Dedicated to becoming Rob Kardashian.
If she had done this quicker.
She wants to become her father.
If she had done this quicker, she could have represented Jonathan Majors. But no, she's putting it off. Taking too long to get this done.
She's personally going to free all the violent criminals from our prisons.
Maybe they can also do a weird crossover episode with American Horror Story out of nowhere.
Unrelated, but I'm looking closer at her skin in this photo. It really looks like it's Ozempic is not treating her well.
Okay, I've got a bigger complaint. Have you ever seen the memes where it shows you like a deliberately off-center fireplace? Look at the cropping on her photo and his photo. I understand that it's on either side, but just put them in the middle.
Okay.
I looked at that and I couldn't stop staring at it earlier. It's very annoying to me. I
don't really mind it.
The Ozempic is going to burn a hole in her gut.
Well, we'll see if she's going to get that role in the X-Men that she wants.
I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if they did that, just like they were saying they wouldn't be surprised if they cast Taylor Swift in a Marvel movie.
Oh, yeah.
It would end up happening, right?
Okay.
Yep. In the chat, Andrina says she's essentially doing on-the-job training, on-the-job internship for years. Yeah, pretty much. And then there is Bandit Club. Ozempic.
I even saw an ad for Ozempic last night on YouTube.
Did you?
Yeah.
What were they advertising? Were they advertising it about diabetes or were they advertising about weight loss?
It just said, ask your doctor about Ozempic. It didn't even say why you would need it.
Are you a diabetic? Are you feeling like a fatty? Ask your doctor.
Do you want to projectile vomit all of the food out of your stomach so that you can be skinny like the Kardashians?
Exactly.
Ask your doctor about Ozempic.
Maybe on trial she can ask a client like, where is my butt? Like, where is it? Or like somebody needs to.
I don't recall.
Somebody should make the GIF or the meme of Batman where he's going, where is it? With the Joker.
I plead the fifth.
Holding. Yeah, it's like Kim Kardashian's butt. Where is it? They should do that. Also, guys, I saw a couple of people in the chat a couple of weeks ago were singing the praises of Kelsey Grammer's Frasier reboot. I have not tuned into it, but Kelsey Grammer is in a little bit of hot water because allegedly they cut short an interview he did with the BBC because the interviewer asked him about Donald Trump and he started talking about it and Paramount's just like, cut it.
Let's listen.
Yeah, let's listen to what he has to say.
I mean, he's old.
Yep.
I got to ask you about politics before we finish. You mentioned Roseanne early on, who had a great comeback, but also was a Trump supporter. You were, at least you were a Trump supporter. I'm fascinated to know if you still are.
I am, and I'll let that be the end of it.
That was the end of it. Though I have to say, actually, Kelsey Grammer himself was perfectly happy to go on talking about it. The Paramount Plus PR people, less happy that he talked about it at some length.
They'll be really thrilled that you mentioned that.
Yeah, I'm really thrilled. Anyway, they decided that we'd had plenty of time for our interview. But I should stress that he was absolutely perfectly happy to talk about why he supports Donald Trump and still does in the coming election.
It's such a gotcha for them where they're
I mean, what was the point in asking him? Were they trying to get him to denounce his support of Trump?
Maybe they just hate Paramount Plus and they wanted to sink Paramount Plus. But, you know,
you're saying that people really like the Frasier reboot.
Yeah, a lot of people were saying that the Frasier reboot was really, really good. And maybe the idea is that...
I love Frasier.
You do?
Yeah.
There's something Mary loves?
Yeah, never watched Cheers, though.
Wow, we should get you. We should get you like to do reaction videos to old episodes of Frasier.
It's just one of those shows that I grew up watching because my parents liked it.
But I think this is one of those things where, like, look, you could be any one of these celebrities and go on a diatribe about how much you love Joe Biden and his corpse-like demeanor as he stumbles everywhere. You could talk about how much you love Kamala Harris and her hyena laugh. You could do all of those things, and none of these companies would stop you from doing your promotion.
That
Though
is
arguably,
what Bryan Cranston
damage.
did recently. Yeah. So I saw Bryan Cranston's name trending on Twitter today. So here were his comments on Trump. He says, "I've stopped worrying about Donald Trump's sanity. He's not sane. And the realization of his illness doesn't fill me with anger, but profound sadness. What I now worry about is the sanity of anyone who can still support this deeply troubled man to lead our country." And this is from an account called Call to Activism on X.
Sounds like a bunch of fun people to hang out with.
So I guess maybe he's throwing some shade at Kelsey Grammer. They should do a debate.
Walter White and,
I'm just so tired.
Fraser Crane.
I'm tired of everyone chiming in about Trump, whether you support him or you think he's a madman. I don't care about any celebrity's takes on Trump.
Yeah, and nowadays it kind of feels like you've missed the boat on it, right?
Right.
You've missed the golden age of when it was relevant. Like there was like people tried to make a big deal because Waka Flocka like supported him, and then he didn't back in the day, and it was news for like
2 seconds.
I wouldn't even say 2 seconds. 0.32 seconds, and then Sexy read something about him, and it was news for like 0.2 seconds, and then nobody cared, and it's just. I feel like a lot of people, the people who aren't deeply enveloped in the political world, they just don't care.
And you know what else they were trying to get Kelsey Grammer to do, which was rotten of them? They were trying to get him to say bad things about Roseanne Barr.
Yeah.
They were trying to get him to trash her or say, you know, she's really gone off the deep end with all of these crazy jokes she's making. But he didn't do that, and that's why they were disappointed and cut him off. They censored him.
Yep. I will say that there's an underrated show that I would suggest you guys go and look for. There was a show that Kelsey Grammer made around 2012 called Boss, starring Kathleen Robinson. It's very, very good. I don't even know if it's on any streaming services, but I enjoyed that one a lot. He played a corrupt politician, which makes perfect sense. It was great. It was really, really good. I recommend everyone go suggest that. Who could bring up Trump now? Like what I want to see is the Jamie Foxx doing Trump impressions. That I liked. I enjoyed seeing.
Apparently, he's still doing them in voice note conversations with Tyler Fisher.
But like,
post those publicly, dude.
There isn't any like correlating politician or somebody that's going to get you the clout. And this one now isn't even going to get you the clout that Trump did back in the day. His name doesn't have the same ability to get somebody not directly connected with him the clout that it once did.
I feel like public opinion has shifted on Trump and more people like him now.
Well, we'll have to.
I think he's more popular now that we've had to live under the Biden administration.
Do you think he'll win in the election?
Oh, I'm not going to make a
You're not going to make a prediction on that?
nor do I care. I'm going to throw in my vote because I know it's worth nothing.
Also, it would be interesting. Like, we should we should look at all of the actors on actors and see if he gets brought up, because I guarantee you he will be.
Trump?
At least in the Ruffalo one, he'll end up coming up at some point.
I didn't see any headlines about Trump in the Mark Ruffalo one, but
the Ruffalo can't go like 10 minutes without talking about him in a lot of ways. But remember, it wasn't that long ago. Who was it? Michael, the actor who like said like voting for Trump's on the table because of what was going on in Israel.
Oh yeah, what was his name?
Michael
Rappaport.
Rappaport.
Yeah,
so
Michael Rappaport.
You know, like if those things are going on right now, the conversation
vote for
is
Big Dick Donald Trump.
The worst part about that is how like self-satisfied he looked every time he'd say that.
Like no one thinks it's as funny as you do.
Like nobody's actually laughing at the term pig dick. It's dorky.
Yeah.
It's very, very dorky. So I do recommend checking out, based solely on the people who have been telling me that the Frasier reboot is good. I would recommend going and checking that out.
I don't
know.
I don't know if I want to ruin Frasier for myself.
Well, I mean, that's the hardest thing too, right? Like I was having a conversation with Colonel Kurtz last night, and we were talking about like how to define the term woke. And I said, I rebuke the idea of even giving it a definition, because you could ask 500 people and get 500.
The examples of it, as you said, are the definition of woke.
Yes. But the idea is like, you know it when you see it. Like when people say it's porn, you know it when you see it. I think of woke in the same manner. You don't always know how to define it, but you understand it when you see it, and that's going to be a subjective term. But
I remember when that one reporter asked a journalist to define woke, and she was unable to do it, and that was what they circulated as evidence that wokeness doesn't even exist. Yeah. Just because one person who calls it out isn't able to give a sound definition for it, it must be fake.
Yeah. And the thing that I was talking about, I said the best way to find it evident places is any of these shows, maybe not Frasier, that goes on a long hiatus, gets canceled, and then comes back. You will see some evidence of it in the rebooted version of it. So the example that I was giving recently was the Justified reboot, Justified Primeval, which finds a way to make race a front and center issue from a show that had to deal with white supremacists and Confederacy and all these things in the background of the original series, but managed to do it in a way that didn't scream to you. And what I was pointing out was there's a point in this first episode where Art, the character of Art, played by Nick Searcy, who's been on IRL, basically says that the character of Boyd started out, he went to jail. He fell in with the white supremacists and the militia movement. He calls it the white supremacist idiots, the white supremacist bullshit. And that's all of the attention they're willing to pay something like that, because at that time in the culture, it wasn't an issue that people even thought of as relevant to discuss, right? That's how you laugh in the face of stupidity. Right? Mm-hmm. You can still put it in your story, but you don't put it front and center on every issue. There were Confederate flags pretty commonly shown in that show, but it was never shown as something that had to be hyper focused on. You could still have it in there. You can still call it out. But then when the new one comes out, the first thing they're doing in the show is talking about why Raylan Givens can't understand things because he's white. And I'm like, you didn't need to do that. That's woke.
Yeah.
That's stupid. There's no need to do that.
You know it when you see it. You showing me that awful sponsorship for Delta, was it? Delta Airlines.
Oh boy.
They have this influencer marketing strategy campaign where they got this woman who is partially deaf and partially blind to make a whole ad about Delta and how we need more representation for disabled travelers.
It was, there needs to be representation in travel. And then she talked about disabled joy.
It's just ridiculous.
And it was
on its face.
It was pretty ridiculous.
You know woke when you see it. That was definitely one example.
But apparently the Frasier reboot is not that. So
right.
it's worth checking out. All right. Not just that, guys. I'm sure that there was at least some of the audience. We had a lot of people who've been following the show for a long time. Do you remember not that long ago, we discussed a story about a YouTuber who got caught crashing his own plane for views? Absolutely bonkers.
To be clear, he jumped out of the plane and did a skydive out of the plane and then crashed it into the front of a mountain.
But he pretended like the plane was. He pretended like it was a mistake. Let's watch the video here. So it's got the old video.
Who is recording this? What is this?
GoPro.
Holding onto that GoPro for dear life. He intentionally lets this thing crash in flames into a mountain.
He's pretending like he doesn't know why it's crashing.
Oh shit. On the lens from that angle is crazy. And there it goes.
What you don't see, guys. Yeah. So what you don't see, guys, is like the clip before that where he's like, "Oh my God, it's not working anymore. There's something wrong." And he jumps out of the plane doing his bad acting. Well, he got caught going back to get the footage from the wreck and got arrested, charged, and is about to spend 6 months in prison. His name's Trevor Daniel Jacob. He's 30 years old of Lompoc. He was a former Olympic snowboarder. He was facing a max of 20 years, but was sentenced to just 6 months in prison for...
I mean, I feel that's justified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really think it's justified. I think it's I don't know what it would be, but I guess nobody got hurt, right? But
someone could have.
Damaged wildlife, damaged trees, damaged property. I guess it's the property of the state of California, the trees, right?
Yeah.
And
so it's
just a hoax like that is
technically destruction and concealment with the intent to obstruct a federal investigation.
Yeah.
I assume that means concealing the footage that he went to retrieve from the mountain. I don't know. People will just do anything for clout.
They will these days.
And this is somebody who, because he's also an Olympic snowboarder, he's just a risk taker, but also possibly a sociopath. Because he's willing to put other people at risk, but also his own life at risk to get clicks.
Says prosecutors say he purposely waited 2 days to report the pre-planned crash to the National Transportation Safety Board, who advised him to preserve the wreckage, though he stalled the investigation, telling them he didn't know where the plane went down. Instead, he used a helicopter to lift the wreckage out of the Los Padres National Forest on December 10th, 2021, before dismantling it and disposing of it. He was getting rid of all the evidence of the crime. During his sentencing Monday, Judge Walter ordered him to surrender to the authorities by January 29th. He's a statement from his lawyer. The experience has been so humbling. By the way, at least back when we did this video initially, this video of this all happening was still up on YouTube and still monetized. So,
but it's not anymore.
I don't know if it's. I didn't want to say now because I don't know if it still is. But at that time, when we reported on this initially, it was still on YouTube and it was still monetized. And that's because wouldn't with like the chemicals in the plane cause damage to the land, right? Gas.
Yes. Well, I pulled up
Is it still there?
his channel, and the most recent video I see is titled, "I got my pilot's license back, but going to prison, ... 17 hours ago. Trevor Jacobs still flying high.
What was what's the view count on the initial video?
The initial video is not up anymore,
Okay,
but
took
I
it
see
down.
re-uploads of it.
It had like, when I saw before, it had like 5 million it had like 5 million views, which can translate to a lot of money.
Yeah, obviously.
When monetized. So he did it for clicks, he did it for clout, and he's
How does he
going
get his
to jail.
pilot's license back after this?
How does he? It's a very good question. It's like, maybe if he could have found a way to do it onto his own property so that he's not damaging somebody else's land, right? I don't know. All right. And what, did we want to watch the Mr. Birchum trailer?
Yeah.
Let's do that.
So Daily Wire released the trailer for their newest series, Mr. Birchum, an animated series. Here was the description. Meet Mr. Birchum, the no-nonsense teacher navigating Teddy Roosevelt Junior High with his family. Partnering with his friend Gage, he faces off against the dynamic advocate for change, the fanatical social justice warrior Carponzi. It's from, I think Adam Carolla is the protagonist.
All right. Well, let's
Coming
watch
next year.
Tell me what you need.
Jump into the first one.
Rolling, speed, action.
Sawbuck's looking a little chubby wubby. So I bought him some new food. It's organic and vegan.
Dogs are supposed to eat meat. They're descendants of wolves. You ever see a vegan wolf on the Nature Channel?
I'm a vegan.
Coffee is for closers, ladies. Listen up!
Hey, don't make this a prison hug.
Don't do anything stupid, other than last year.
I'm a heteronormative, cisgendered white male. For which I apologize.
I'm black, and that used to be enough, but I'm also bilingual, and I'm non-binary.
We're the Army. We drink more before 9 a.m. than you Navy pukes do all day.
He rubbed all the fur off his emotional support ferret. The damn thing looked like a four-legged penis.
Charity and work. Two words that should never go together. Like women and opinions.
I want a burly man. They're salty and make me dizzy.
Sorry, just need to find a thingy to fix my gaming chair.
When I was on the construction site, my chair was a 5-gallon bucket. It was also my toilet.
Hey, I'm done. I'm going back to bed. Thanks a lot.
Thoughts?
I like Roseanne Barr's
Okay,
lines.
what I was most excited about was seeing Danny Trejo. Okay, coolest thing about that is I posted this on my Twitter the other day. I'll always call it Twitter or Twix. He has a clause in his contracts. If he plays a bad guy in a movie or a television show, his character has to die to prove that crime doesn't pay, because he spent most of the 60s in jail. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
Like, it's like somebody else was like really disagreeing with me on that. They're like, it's actually not good and all this stuff. And they actually made a fairly reasonable argument, though I think it was a little bit too, like, I don't think Danny Trejo thought about it in an overtly, like an overly intellectual way. I think he made a very good point to say. And since then, I think there have been things where he's just been arrested or they've left the character's end to be ambiguous. But I love the idea that he's like, look, I learned the hard way that crime isn't good for you, and I need to help push through the media that I end up making that it's not good for you either.
Yeah.
You should know that it's not.
We should do reviews of this once it comes out.
I do think it falls
early next year.
I do think it falls a little bit into the same trap that Lady Ballers had, which is that the dialogue at points felt a little on the nose with the buzzwords. I understand they're using the buzzwords in reverse, but I hate when they use the buzzwords in the mainstream press. And I'd like it if they could make the same points, but get rid of like I don't need to hear heteronormative cis white. I don't know. I just I'm not a writer, but I would like to see if there could be maybe a slightly more eloquent way of writing some of this dialogue, so it doesn't feel like we're hearing those same buzzwords, but going the other way.
Well, let's hope it's not too raunchy.
We don't want raunch.
We don't want raunch.
We don't want raunch. Okay, all right. Let's go ahead and get started then, shall we? Now
we
that
need
we're
to do
like,
cute and
what?
cringe.
Oh, yes.
They said I was reminding you of the homework yesterday.
Is that what it is?
What would we
It's the
do if
homework?
I didn't?
Yeah, we would. Well, the chat would remind me. I can rely on the chat. What would you like to see first, cute or cringe?
You decide.
All right. Well, we'll start with cute of the day.
I can't be in charge.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Unfiltered guy on Twix showed us this one, and that is a cute one. Look at that. Let me go widescreen so we can see the whole thing. Oh. Looks very tired.
That's a skinny cat.
It's a very skinny cat. Let's watch.
No.
Very cute.
All together.
All together. Very cute. All right, let's do one more. This is from Larissa on Twitter. It says, liquor store guard dog that doesn't guard.
At your local liquor store, I
love
assume?
it.
That's funny.
I love it. With the mat on the floor to make your feet less painful. Oh.
He protect.
He attack.
Yes.
The question is, does he ever get into the alcohol? You got to prevent that from happening. That's not good.
Yeah, no.
You don't want that to happen. All right, let's do cringe of the day. Dinks. Everybody loves talking
Guys,
about dinks.
dinks means dual income, no kids,
Yes.
for
We're dinks.
context.
We're going to get asked daily when we plan on having kids.
We're dinks. Of course we're going to go out to eat every night after work.
We're dinks.
We can tell.
We don't have to ask our family for financial help or to watch our kid when we want to go out.
We're dinks. We're going to go to Costco and buy all the snacks in bulk that we want.
Once again, we
We're
can
dinks.
tell.
We have disposable income to spend on whatever we would like and don't have to spend on a kid.
We're dinks. I'm going to go to every football game and play 18 holes whenever I want.
We're dinks. We're going to get asked to every single family event what we're doing with our life. We're dinks.
It's there's this large consensus that people really hate those questions that your relatives always ask you. Right? When are you gonna
how
have
dare
kids?
they be interested in your lives and hope that you provide progeny for the family line? How dare they?
I love, there was a comment that said, like, imagine watching a 2,000-year bloodline end just because you wanted more Costco snacks. This is one of the ones where I wish we could have Colonel Kurtz on the show today, because she has such an eloquent way about talking about this topic, because she herself doesn't have kids, but has a very, very nuanced way of describing the situation. And I do find it, I understand why people get annoyed by those questions, because I think what it is a lot of it feels like you're being, it's like somebody rushing you when you're trying to get something done and they're asking you questions and you don't want to.
Well, the difference here is these two clearly aren't even trying to have kids. They have no aspiration or plan to have kids in the future, and they just think that should be enough.
And they're cat. What they have pictures of Kathy Griffin all over their walls, I guess.
I don't know. You were saying that they're like most millennials have an obsession with where they buy food.
Yes.
Make a personality out of where they buy food, like Costco in this instance.
Yeah, I mean,
it was cringe.
Is part of it just like, look, you get. Maybe the reason why I would reserve my judgment on being this proud of something or being this brazen about the concept of what they're describing is like, you don't know how you're going to feel in 20 years. And to be fair, I mean, I don't know how old the young lady is, but she could still have kids a decade from now, and her priorities could change. But we live in a culture now where social media tells us to talk about what we're feeling in this moment without really taking into account that we could feel very different a decade from now.
I mean, just take a look at the child-free subreddit, and you'll see that this is a cult. And if you ever change your mind and your priorities do change as you get older, you will be shunned for it. It's just considered a moral failing at this point among those people to have a family because of the climate or because worrying about, giving your kids trauma and continuing generational cycles. It's just, it is a cult. And you're not allowed to change your mind.
Which is sad. You should be allowed to change your mind.
There are, I'm sure, plenty of married couples out there that don't have kids and never really thought about it like this.
Yeah.
Who don't broadcast it on social media to get accolades and approval from people, which shows that they're just overcompensating.
Is this kind of their version of like, maybe they feel like when they watch the videos about the moms or the family channels that have like 6 kids that talk about how great it is to have kids, and then their family's asking you, why don't you want to be like these people? I mean, so they feel defensive.
It kind of sucks because all of the family vloggers and the mommy influencers make having kids seem like a living hell. And portray it in a way that just looks super toxic. And then the dinks and the child-free people also make it seem like a living hell to be single or not have kids yet.
Who's the lady that we talked about the one day? The what is it? Farms. The lady who runs she's got like 7 kids.
Ballerina Farm.
Okay, so Linda from Mostly Peaceful Latinas was talking about how she's got like 20 people that work for her, but the people that watch her think that she does all of this on her own.
I mean, she's an heiress to an entire $1 billion
the JetBlue fortune, right?
Empire, yes.
But she talks about, she's like, look, this lady cooks her food on a $35,000 stove. This is not a realistic social media on the whole isn't a realistic way for you to approach life, because it's always like, I showed you those videos earlier, right? It says like fitness influencers be like, and the guys, it shows him setting up the camera, and then he goes, and then the color correction sets in and he starts pretending to struggle working out, and then the inspirational quote starts playing, right? It's all in a lot of ways a facade. One of the things that I have a hard time with when doing this show is to find a way to be both interesting and convey my thoughts in an interesting manner, but I don't want to be anything short of as authentic as I can possibly be while doing something like this. And I think that a lot of people, we're going to talk about it later.
We're getting into that later.
We're getting into it later, is that they fall into a persona. Right? And when Dinks becomes your persona, it isn't all that different from mommy influencer becoming your persona. It's becoming like what they say pro wrestlers do, which is like the best pro wrestling characters are like a version of yourself turned up to 10. So these people are just elevating one aspect of who they are and overdoing it for the sake of clicks and views. And no wonder people never seem to find a way to, as relatable as they may be, they're never going to find a way to put it into practice in their own life. It just wouldn't work. So, all right, now that we've done with that, let's go ahead and get started. So Ricky Gervais, he is in trouble again. He has a new Netflix special that's about to drop, and he has made some jokes at the expense of terminally ill children, and many, many people are not happy with this. I decided to put a poll up, as I mentioned earlier. I asked you guys, look, is it acceptable to make jokes about kids with cancer, basically? Is it okay to make jokes about terminally ill children? Right now, we are sitting at 71% say yes, it is acceptable to make jokes about kids with cancer.
Well, if you voted that jokes about kids with cancer is too far and that's not on the table for jokes, I would like you to explain why. Yeah. And we can talk about it. But Ricky Gervais is still getting a lot of backlash for this. Let's just go through what the joke was. We're not going to show you the clip because Netflix is going to get us. But he makes a joke about making videos for sick children through the Make-A-Wish Foundation. And the first part of this that made me question it was, are there really kids out there who are dying of cancer asking Ricky Gervais to be their final dying wish, making a TikTok for them? But that's besides the point.
John Cena was busy.
Here's his quote. I've been doing a lot of video messages recently for terminally ill children, only if they request it, obviously. I don't burst into hospitals and go, wake up, Baldy, look at me twerking on TikTok. I would say that's more of a joke at his own expense, not the children. So he said, I did a lot through the pandemic, presumably because they couldn't see their own family. And he said if a kid requested him, he would always say yes. And I always start the video the same way. Why didn't you wish to get better? He deadpanned. What, are you effing R-worded as well? And he said, I don't even use that word in real life, the R word. He's playing a role. He says, you know, if you play a cannibal in a TV show, no one thinks that you're a cannibal.
Anthony Hopkins, yes.
If Ricky Gervais uses the R slur in a comedy special, it doesn't mean that he uses it in his everyday life. I don't really care if he does or doesn't. Yep. If you want to go see the full bit, go watch it. The full special is coming out soon. But I saw some responses, and people aren't happy. First of all, here's a reply from Ashley Kane. He's a football star from the UK. He commented, I was actually a fan of Ricky Gervais, but after watching his stand-up with my family and hearing multiple jokes about terminally ill children, and especially kids with cancer, I had to turn it off. Some things are not funny, especially to the parents that are left behind. You can get canceled in this world for so much, yet making a mockery of dying children is okay. I'm so mad at this. So that was his reply on Ricky Gervais's post. And for context, this guy actually did lose one of his children to terminal cancer when his daughter was just 8 months old. And that was only 2 years ago. And he just had a new child recently. So I understand why that would offend him.
Absolutely.
I absolutely do.
Absolutely.
I just am not quite in agreement with him that this should make, like, your personal experience should set the rules for what people are allowed to talk or make jokes about. And in the most sensitive way I can possibly put it, like, your personal experience doesn't set the rules for what other people are allowed to say.
There was a time, we were talking about this, I was talking about this with Colonel Kurtz last night because we were talking about James Gunn and all of the tweets that, you know, the pedo tweets or whatever that was reported as 10,000, but it was actually, he deleted 10,000 tweets, and then however many
en
there
masse,
they weren't
there
all
were only
that,
the 3 or so that
but the point was, we were talking about how, like, look, back at this time, in the early 2000s especially, there was like an entire period of time where dead baby jokes was like a genre of jokes because people were trying to be as edgy as they possibly could.
The issue is that wasn't dead baby jokes, that was specifically jokes about PDF philia.
The point is, if they're clarified as jokes, where do we draw the line?
My issue is, given that that type of behavior is commonplace in Hollywood and the entertainment industry as a whole, and he's part of that industry, it seems to hit a little closer to home. And I don't personally find those jokes funny if the status quo is, this is okay in my industry.
So the joke would be more acceptable if it was from somebody outside of
I suppose
Hollywood?
It would, yes.
I mean, but then even then there, we are drawing our own artificial lines about where comedy is acceptable based
society
on your
always
profession.
has. Yeah.
And
but also, like, if Ricky Gervais is making this joke in a special that's on Netflix, how much more mainstream could it get? And then I also saw some backlash from another football star from Australia. His wife is terminally ill with cancer, and she made several posts about this. One was a video of her child saying a message for Ricky Gervais in response to his Netflix special, calling Make-A-Wish cancer kids baldy and asking why don't they just wish to be cured. I don't even know why I'm giving this man airtime, but if you're unsure what my last post was about, this man is using terminally ill children as the subject of his jokes. Disgusting. How this is even still on Instagram for people to see makes me sick. Gross. And she added another update. I've spoken to Ted Sarandos himself, CEO of Netflix, as well as his PA at Netflix, and had it flagged. Whether anything happens, which I doubt it will, is a different story. It'll say a lot about his character if he would rather ignore me and earn a bit of money off the back of terminally ill kids. And then she posted another update saying, I've had my number blocked by Netflix co-founder Ted Sarandos by simply asking for a call back to discuss the negative impact the Ricky Gervais special will have.
So is every joke that you've ever made of anyone off the back of that person, I guess? So Chris Rock made money off the back of O.J. Simpson, allegedly offing his wife, right? So is that acceptable?
Is that making jokes off the back of murder victims?
Yeah, and in a suspected murderer, right? Like, where do you draw the line? Comedy is subjective.
I would say where you draw the line is arbitrary, but the fact that society tends to draw a line is not arbitrary in and of itself. And then
also,
but I also think that a lot of the people who are screaming at Ricky Gervais right now are trying to leverage their own trauma as a way to get power and influence, clearly, because this woman is trying to talk to the CEO of Netflix about it, call for Ricky Gervais to get kicked off of Instagram, to get censored on social media and on Netflix for making this joke, instead of actually making this as an opportunity to have a heart-to-heart conversation with him about it and why she found it distasteful.
All of these are perfect examples of how we as adults and individuals, it's our responsibility to consume content in a way that we have to be responsible, right? Your job as an adult is to consume what you want to consume. And if something upsets you, you have to understand that is a subjective take. You are offended. That does not mean that somebody else would. And it's narcissistic to think that your offense should require somebody else to stop from consuming something.
You also can't presume to speak for everyone that shares that personal experience of either having a terminal illness, having cancer, or having a child who does. Maybe there are a lot of them out there that don't have a platform that would disagree with you, so you can't presume to speak for them. And another mom of a child who has terminal illness spoke out, named Catherine Litchin. She said, Ricky Gervais's words were like a punch in the gut. My throat closed up and tears sprung to my eyes at his words. Why don't you wish to get better? Because that is what we do wish for. The punchline of his joke is the suffering of children and parents whose greatest wish is for them to get better, but nothing in the world can grant it. I find it particularly troubling that Ricky Gervais used an ableist slur, R-worded, to describe terminally ill children. The word is a weapon of derision towards those who are born with or acquire a disability, and Gervais' use of it in a globally aired stand-up show is helping to maintain the social acceptability of discrimination against disabled people. And I fully have sympathy for what she's going through, but I have to say, you're making a lot of conclusions without really seeing the nuance that exists in comedy and in a dark sense of humor. Because clearly the way that he told this joke is at his own expense. Yeah. He's literally making a joke like it's so absurdly funny that I can stand up here and pretend to be such a piece of shit that I would call a kid with terminal illness a name like that. The joke is we are laughing at him. The joke is at his expense. He is literally, he's not punching down, he's not punching up, he's punching himself. Yeah. It's so funny that I would possibly even be such a bad person to say something like that. And he's even said in that clip, I'm playing a role. Yeah. That's the joke. So you're kind of you're jumping to a lot of conclusions and forfeiting the responsibility to actually understand the context of what you're watching. Well, also, and I'm not saying it necessarily is funny, but be honest about what his intentions were with telling the joke.
And it would go past humor if we were to start being that that censorious with this material. It would go past humor to television shows that show death and murder and don't do so in a way in which you find sensitive enough to the subject matter. Are you going to censor that because they don't handle the subject matter in a way that you feel gives it the gravity that it deserves? Right? These types of subjective standards that we have for all of these issues are why art is so hotly contested in a lot of cases. And Tyler Fisher said it on Friday. He said, look, if you're going to be able to make jokes, everything has to be on the table, because at the end of the day, the problem in a globally connected world is that not everything is going to be necessarily to our own tastes, right? Mm-hmm. How often do people say it's not for you, right? We hear that all the time. So when you hear that stuff, the idea is look, you can wince and you can be upset by it. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. It would speak to the subjective nature of your personal life experience, but it's our job as adults when people, it's kind of like for me, and it's obviously not the same thing. When people make jokes or stuff, I post a lot of dark humor about addiction, because of my own personal experiences, because I like the idea of using dark humor. And me and Dane will make jokes about dead parents. It will happen. And it's just not something that's bothered me, but I have a dark sense of humor.
Because you're not thinking about an audience sitting there to judge you for what you find funny.
Most of the stuff that I find funny is not stuff that necessarily I'm going to share on social media. Yeah. He has to put himself at risk for the sake of financial benefit to do that.
Me personally, I don't think that jokes about pedophilia or jokes about abortion, for instance, are funny. But do I sit around demanding that people get censored for saying them? I don't think that Dave Chappelle should be censored for making a joke about abortion that I found distasteful and unfunny. In his special Sticks and Stones, there was specifically a joke where he says he believes it's women's unequivocal right to choose, but he believes men should have rights too. He made it.
I remember just in time. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did see that. It's not going to happen today.
No, not on my watch, ladies and gentlemen. I'm good.
So basically, he's making a joke that, you know, men should have a right to choose too, so they should have a right to choose abortion. And I mean, in a sense, that's also a joke that he's making at his own expense. Like, oh, I'm a piece of shit. Like, I would choose abortion.
He's like, if you have the right to kill it, I have the right to abandon it.
Right. Like, that's also a joke that he's making at his own expense. And I don't find the subject matter laughable, but other people do. I just don't think that your personal standards
does anybody know
should dictate everyone else's.
Yeah. Does anybody know what currency this is from Annie ML? NOK?
I have no idea.
Be cool if it was North
Korea.
But
whatever it is, it's equivalent to $20 or something.
My young friend died from a terrible illness. To the end, she laughed and was comforted by Gervais' song, Don't Make Fun of the Disabled. Her family hated it, but she needed it. I respect both. No one forces you to listen. Yes.
Yeah.
That's the nuance we need in the world today. That's the nuance we need in the world. Yeah, like for the most part, like most of the humor that I find, maybe it's also because like one of the things about sobriety is a certain level of introspection, because you have to be willing to be harsh with yourself about your behaviors or the mistakes you've made, but also with the loss of a parent. If you've worked to deal with the loss of a loved one or something like that, one of the things you have to do is be brutally honest with yourself about how you handled something like that. So when those jokes are made to me, like, they don't bother me, to the point where sometimes I wonder if there's something a little bit wrong with me. Like, why doesn't it bother me?
But that's the thing that society is projecting onto you right now.
Yes.
Like, you're fucked up if you think that this joke is funny, and that's not true.
Yeah. So
That's been the case for all of human history. People make jokes about dark things to cope with it. It's just how it is. So let's go to Super Chats.
Do it.
Andrew Jacobs said, let's get hashtag make Shapiro sane again trending. I did see some comments that were like, Mary's really making me like Ben Shapiro again. So I guess I did my job. Bucky Ducky said, Brett randomly looking hotter than a bucket of lava during the interviews was uncalled for. No homo.
Well, you know, what can
as long as you say no homo at the end.
What can I say, right? Like, I try. Also, I saw a comment where somebody said the producer does him dirty on the live show. That's me.
Yeah.
I'm producer.
You're doing yourself dirty.
I'm hurting myself. We have a $20 one here from Crispy Leg Transport LLC. Says, I agree. Men should have the option to opt out of child support unless you were married to the woman. There you go. Hot button topic.
That would change a lot of
Hot
things.
button topic right there.
Shane H. Wilder said, a memestress, Brett. I was going to compliment you both. Now I'm only going to compliment Mary. Mary, you did a wonderful job on the interviews, LOL.
So Shane last night, he joined the stream and he said he was working on a new episode of the Podcastress. I meant to say he's a memer, and I conflated Podcastress and memer and said memestress, which I guess would make him a female memer. I apologized last night, so I don't know why he's still being rude to me today, but I apologize for misgendering you.
Not that John Stewart said black mug bot.
Yes, let's go.
Black mugs matter, guys.
There you go. They do. Let's do one more, and then we'll.
Shane H. Wilder said, I was indecisive, so I bought both.
Yes. Okay, guys. To those who are just joining us and wondering what they're talking about, allow me to shill again quickly. We do have Let's Go mugs now available.
Question mark.
Yes, right here on the channel. You can go ahead and get your The mug that was made famous by me not knowing whether or not Anne's Franks was really an acceptable thing to say.
Speaking of offensive jokes, right?
I was like, look, is it acceptable for me to say let's go to a joke about Anne's Franks hot dogs.
Or kids with cancer.
Yeah, it's all relative. All right, let's go ahead and move on. Mary, what the hell's going on with Jonathan Majors?
Jonathan Majors is beginning a criminal trial for those abuse allegations that were leveled at him from his ex-girlfriend, Grace Jabari. And it's just getting more and more intense. I saw this headline that said, his lawyers claim the ex-girlfriend made false allegations out of revenge, which brings us to question, is Jonathan Majors the victim of a MeToo styled revenge plot? And is that why his career as an actor is suffering right now?
So this is what the prosecutor, Michael Perez said, says, on the night of the incident, Jabari saw a text on Major's phone from a woman named Cleopatra that read, quote, wish I was kissing you right now.
Who's going to place bets on whether that woman is actually named Cleopatra?
Or is it Megan?
And was it Megan Good, his current girlfriend, who is accompanying him in the courtroom?
Yep. Perez asserted that Majors then began grabbing the right side of Jabari's body and prying her fingers off the phone to retrieve it. The prosecutor said that this caused bruising, swelling, and substantial pain. Quote, he intended to cause Grace Jabari physical injury, and in fact, he did cause her physical injury. I would actually argue that his main goal was to get the phone back with the incriminating messages. I don't know if he was really intending to harm her. He wanted to get the evidence back.
So he was cheating on his GF. She freaked out. They got into a fight in the Uber, and this is all recorded on a dash cam, so we know exactly what happened. But the public isn't allowed to see that footage, so they can't make their own conclusions. It's all up to whatever is covered in this case.
Marie D in the chat says, I have no idea who these people are. Jonathan Majors is an actor. He plays Kang in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. He was in the new Creed movie with Michael B. Jordan. He was in Devotion. He is a star on the rise right now.
He lost a lot of opportunities when these allegations came out.
Several ad campaigns got canceled because of what was going on here.
Yeah. Okay. So Perez, the prosecutor, also alleges that the honeymoon period of Majors and Jabari's partnership was waning and things began to sour. Months into the relationship, the defendant's true self began to show. He began to snap at, manipulate, and strategically withhold affection from Grace Jabari. Majors had threatened suicide to, quote, control her actions in the past, according to Perez. And this affected their entire relationship and how she reacted on March 25th.
I saw, I know I lost it. I saw there was a meme, or not a meme, like an infographic that said affirming. It was posted from one of the LGBTQ organizations. It said, affirming someone's gender identity is a form of suicide prevention, and the comments were just nuts. I mean, they were positive for humanity. They're like, no, if you're using threat of suicide to control another person's behavior, that is 110% manipulative and you need help.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's a hostage situation that they're doing right there. Yeah. And obviously, if this is true, it's disgusting to threaten suicide, to manipulate someone into doing your will. But this was the interesting part of his defense. They said Jonathan Majors' lifetime of hard work was coming to fruition and his career seemed unstoppable until he ended his relationship with Jabari. And she made these false allegations. This is a man who spent 30 years working hard to get where he was on March 25th. A man with the world at his fingertips. This is a case about the end of a relationship, not about a crime, at least not one that Mr. Majors committed. In revenge, she made these false allegations to ruin Mr. Majors and take away everything he spent his life working for him. Majors' lawyer urged the jury to end this nightmare for him.
Remember, she actually wanted to drop these charges, and the prosecution decided to go forward anyway.
That was weird. Also, the social media reaction to this whole thing coming out was super weird because a lot of people who formerly would have identified themselves as fans or supporters of Jonathan Majors turned on him and threw him under the bus, specifically because they racialized this whole situation. his ex-girlfriend, Grace Jabari, is white and he is black. And they assume that because he was dating outside of his race, well, he must deserve whatever came to him because you can't trust white people. And that's just totally outside of the realm of concern for what happened here. Like, I thought that whole discussion was insane to read. That people actually think that way is insane to me. And you're right. It also is weird that he lost opportunities so quickly when there are other Me Too stories that we've talked about even recently, like with Jamie Foxx.
Jamie Foxx
Nobody
is back
seems
in the news
to
today because he just made his first public appearance since his injury, and there was not a single one of these article headlines referenced the fact that he had just recently faced his own allegations. So my question with all of these things, because me and Kurtz talk about these stories a lot, and I always have a hard time because we're never going to be there. We're never going to know what actually happened in any of these cases. It's all he said, she said, almost every time. Like, it really is a matter of, like, who do we know? It's selective enforcement by the media. Mm-hmm. Like, you're never going to know. Like, some of them they take very seriously. They bring it up in every story about them. So-and-so who is under fire for allegations of this, this, and this. Other people, it's like it never happened.
Right.
Like, and I really think it is a lot of what you were saying. What you were saying was like, look, it's who they like. And if they like you, then they're gonna just let it go. And if they don't like you, they're gonna use it at every opportunity they can.
If you have public favor, which Jamie Foxx did because he recently went through that health scare, people are going to selectively enforce these rules against you. If there are Me Too claims and you are in public favor, people are going to memory hole it. But if you're someone who everyone has been waiting for an excuse to, burn you at the stake, essentially, in the media, then it's going to be mentioned in every headline with your name in it for all of eternity, it seems. So that's why Me Too just seems like a disingenuous movement from the very beginning.
And look, there have been plenty of people that have been very critical of Majors who say behind the scenes he's really, really difficult to work with. He's not a good guy.
If you look at the way that he poses in red carpet photos, look at this guy's face and you'll see exactly what I mean. He looks like a narcissist. Like the way that he puckers his lips and raises his eyebrows to try to look like handsome Squidward. It's extremely telling of what someone's personality might be like. Yeah. And also, I saw this kind of bizarre but funny headline. It says, Marvel's Jonathan Majors told the ex he's accused of abusing that she needed to act like Michelle Obama and sacrifice for him, says the prosecution.
Or Coretta Scott King.
Or Coretta Scott King. And now he is walking into the courtroom with his new GF, who, by the way, happens to be black, Megan Good. And, he's walking in with a Bible in his hand, kissing her on the cheek, has his friends and family surrounding him in support. It's very much conscious of public image.
The Bible is super unless somebody's going to tell me that this dude is, if this dude is a super religious person, I just missed that, then I'm wrong. But wearing like he might as well come in with like a gigantic cross and like a choir
and a hair shirt.
Yeah, like it's very on the nose.
Chains wrapped around his neck.
He's like, how could you send this guy to jail? He's carrying a Bible into church.
Which is also kind of tone deaf to where the culture is at now.
Yeah. We got a $20 super chat here from Big Dave. He says, there was a super chat to yesterday's show suggesting Ian do punk rock song for the crisis party. I think they were referring to him going off on IRL doing his version of punk music. Well, if somebody if somebody wants to clip that and send it to me, I can look to incorporate it into the next crisis party.
Okay. But yeah, telling his girlfriend that she needed to make sacrifices for him, like Coretta Scott King and Michelle Obama did for their husbands, is really bizarre. Kind of makes him seem like an egomaniac. Thinks he's way more important than he is.
The fact that this, I don't really think that. I think when you're making millions of dollars, like the logic makes sense to him. But the fact that this has gone to trial at all is crazy to me. Like he's an actor.
Right. Well, a lot of people also said that was a race-related decision because he's a black man. Then he's going to be dragged through the coals. But the reality is that didn't happen to Chris Brown. Didn't happen to Jamie Foxx.
Yeah. I mean, but
Who
like,
else?
is this...
Didn't happen to P. Diddy. He reached a settlement.
But those were all Los Angeles. This is New York.
P. Diddy was New York. Jamie Foxx was New York.
Was Pete? I thought P.
Specifically because of the Adult Survivors Act expiring in New York.
But those were older than this is like that. I mean, I understand the idea of not pushing forward with prosecution because they're older cases, right? And they're civil. This is a criminal prosecution. It's I mean, it's kind of the same thing when I think of them arresting Siaka Massaquoi for 4 misdemeanors 3 years after a crime is committed. Like she didn't want to press charges. Remember, she was also arrested for hitting him, and then the judge, and then the prosecutor, the district attorney, said it did not have prosecutorial merit, so they decided to not go forward with the case. Why does his have prosecutorial merit and hers does not? Right? I'm not a lawyer, but it's crazy.
One of the interesting details that they brought up is how Grace Jabari, after this incident occurred, left their car and ran into a group of strangers that invited her to go to a nightclub with them, and she went, and she was also recorded on the security footage there getting shots with her bandaged up finger.
Which they're now using as like evidence that she was not hurt because she was able to hold a drink.
Yeah, I don't know. This whole thing is something that should have never gone to trial. It's a relationship dispute. That's all it is.
There was an episode of Castle where an a porn kingpin like breaks up with his girlfriend at a nightclub, and the girlfriend was did Playboy or whatever, and then she to make him jealous goes and takes a guy into the bathroom stall and has sex with him, and she's having to tell this to the cops, and she's embarrassed by it, right? She's like they're like, do you know the guys? She's like, so who is the guys? She's like, I don't know. She's like, do you know his name? Like, no. And she's getting more embarrassed as they're asking these very basic questions about who this person was. She goes, it was club sex, as if just saying like that, right? Just indulge your impulses indiscriminately.
Yeah, her justification for this was, I was just trying to drown out the memories. I was trying to block it out, what just happened to me. So I went to get drunk with strangers at a nightclub instantly after it happened. And that just seems debaucherous.
And we're not even talking about the fact that the cops were also accused of basically trying to coerce her or coax her into blaming him so that they could arrest him, where she's like, oh, nothing happened. They're like, are you sure that nothing happened? And they basically kept pushing her to
sort
get
of
her to
the way
incriminate him.
Evan Rachel Wood and her crazy girlfriend tried to coax other women into making allegations against Marilyn Manson.
Yeah, so that they could arrest this guy, right? And also there was the claims that the cops were racist because they said that they didn't believe that he could afford to live in the place where he lived. That was a claim that their lawyers were making.
Google me.
Yeah.
You'll Google my Wikipedia.
He's like, but I'm Kang in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Don't you care about the MCU? And they're like, what is that?
They're like, he's like, I'm the new Thanos. They're like, oh, my kids watch those movies.
Okay, let's move on.
All right.
Bucky Ducky said, don't start a CD collection, become pirate.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't care so much about music, but I'm not about to start a DVD collection. Urashima Otaru said, you will own nothing and like it. That is essentially what they're saying.
That is what they're saying. Do 2 more.
Urashima Otaru said they will edit your media if they don't like it.
Oh yeah, we've already seen that with a lot of Marvel properties and other things. They've edited out violence, they've changed scenes, they've edited out nudity in different scenes. I'm less concerned about the disclaimers that they put of stuff. I do find it annoying. I think that we're babying kids when they're like, this was made from a different time period. Are your kids that dumb that they don't understand that this is clearly not from this time period?
Maybe. Macaulay Culkin said that he had his little son watch Home Alone and convinced him that he was the one in the movie.
Nice.
Sometimes kids are dumb. Jason Dixon said, hey, Mary, can we get you on the Discord in an AMA? We have Brett, meh. Everyone wants to see you. Ask Raymond. I don't have imminent plans of ever having a Discord account. Sorry to tell you. And you misspelled my name. And you just Brett.
Yeah, that's
rude. Uncalled for.
I don't go on the Discord to answer questions. I go on the Discord to tell everyone how awful Mocha is, and I just do that once in a while. So now I'm not going to even do that. Thanks. Let's hold off on the rest and we'll come back after the fact. Tell us this absolutely insane story.
Yeah. Guys, the topic of social media addiction comes up quite frequently on this show, and we've just come across a story that perfectly encapsulates it. And it's very dark, so it's summarized perfectly in this roller coaster of a headline. Dave Hollis' death. Disney executive destroyed his life by becoming an influencer, triggering marriage split and outburst at daughter before dying during drug binge while glued to his phone. So if you're wondering who Dave Hollis is, he is the former global head of distribution at Disney. He was in that role for 17 years before he decided to quit and join his wife Rachel's self-help influencer empire on social media.
We had a $20 super chat here from Goose. Says, I always think these Hollywood scandals are fake because of how vain they all are, but just wanted to say I love PCC and listen usually on Spotify during my 11-hour night shifts. God bless the both of you. Love from the UK. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I work very hard these days. I had a couple of days last week where I just I kept zoning out and not getting the audio version up to the next day. I always try to get it up for you guys as quickly as possible right after the show. So continue.
So Dave Hollis was skeptical of self-improvement influencers before he ended up becoming one, which is ironic.
As all should be.
And it's the success of his wife Rachel's tell-all book, Girl Wash Your Face, that ended up changing his mind. It sold 2 million copies. And the premise of this book, the selling point of it, is that she overshares about all of the ugly details of their private life. And I assume she released this without really running it by him beforehand. So in his own book, Get Out of Your Own Way, he admits that he was convinced the world of self-improvement was full of charlatans peddling feel-good mysticism to weak souls. Then he became one of those charlatans. And he opened his book with the story of him reading his wife's tell-all for the first time. I drank a handle of vodka in a day and a half by myself. This is what it took for him to get through her oversharing about having hairy toes and their lousy sex life.
So what did I say earlier? I said, girl, you wash your face is just make your bed for women.
Kind of. It's
right?
just Jordan Peterson, but make it female. And also her whole shtick was...
Make her gay and lame.
You know, she encouraged women to embrace their imperfections, and you put it perfectly that nobody is telling women to do anything but embrace their imperfection at this point.
Literally, nobody in the mainstream is asking any woman of any nationality, of any age, of anything to do anything but just embrace whoever the hell you are now. And if anybody tells you that you're anything short of perfect, they're a mean, evil bigot.
And I'm not the first person to say it, but the self-improvement books that are for men have a lot of phrases like you have to, and the self-improvement books for women have a lot of the phrase you deserve. So that will say a lot about how you're able to grift on these.
They love to deserve.
Yes.
They love to look. Those types of empty platitudes. You're enough. No, you're not.
Yeah.
Neither am I.
Here's another empty
You should
platitude.
always strive to be more. Guess what? You don't have to be an influencer to tell people that. To be like, hey, you're not enough. You need to do more. You could always be doing better. Settling is lame.
You could always get thinner, look better. His book explores the lies we tell ourselves, including real men don't show emotion. Once again, ironic considering that oversharing his emotions is really what led to his downfall and his death earlier this year.
And with this story, what I noticed, there was an episode, I'll circle back. There was an episode of iZombie where this guy whose wife, she's a romance novelist. She wants to write these stories about her sexual exploits, but he is a firefighter who's in a wheelchair, right? So he's in a wheelchair, so he can't, she doesn't explicitly say that it's not with him, but because he can't actually have sex, because he mentions this in the episode, that it would be humiliating and everyone would know that what she's talking about in these stories in this romance novel that she's writing weren't about him, and he begged her to write under a pseudonym, and she wouldn't. because she needed the credit and the adulation to do so.
Right.
That's like, in this case, the name of this lady's production company is an insult to her own husband.
To explain that, Dave Hollis, when he was a skeptic of self-improvement, told his wife that he saw a 3% chance of her self-improvement brand becoming successful. So later on down the line, she decides to start a production company and calls it 3% Chance Productions as a little dig at how he always underestimated her. And
that is the most female shit ever.
This is what led to him quitting his job, joining her in their company. They worked together in constant rivalry for clout and fame and money. And they ended up getting a divorce in June of 2020, only 2 years into that project that they were doing together. And he was already really obsessed with curating his online presence and reading comments, but this is what really began his unraveling.
You know who he should have been hanging out with? That HBO executive who kept telling people.
Yeah, exactly. I did think of that guy too. So imagine this. Imagine you work for two self-improvement influencers and you have a company Slack for it. His staff received a Slack message delivering the news of their divorce. "We have worked endlessly over the last 3 years to make this work," Rachel said on Instagram. So imagine that you work for a married couple and then they just drop that news on you. And it's literally like your parents.
We're making jokes here, but this story is
it's incredibly dark.
Sad
yes.
and dark.
Yeah, so after they got a divorce, Rachel's own brand ended up becoming mired in controversy and scandal because she had a reputation for trying to be unrelatable and out of touch. She's like, I want to be like the women I admire, like Harriet Tubman.
We're like, wait, she wanted to be unrelatable. So what she should have done is tried to get an apprenticeship with Gwyneth Paltrow.
Exactly. So he moved on, or so it seemed in his public presence, and he started dating a fitness influencer named Heidi Powell. And she was known from ABC's Extreme Weight Loss show.
What about Pancake Gate?
Well, we're going to get there.
Okay.
We're going to get to Pancake Gate. Don't worry.
All right.
So he continued posting and reading all these comments, and he got veneers on his teeth. He started getting fake tans, and he got into bodybuilding after the divorce.
Look, on its face, taking care of yourself and caring about your appearance isn't a bad thing.
On its face. Yes. But I believe that secretly this is around the time when he started doing drugs. So that led to Pancake Gate, as you called it. This is what his fans deemed the incident. In October 2021, he was doing an Instagram live stream, literally yelling at his fans for not buying his second book, Built Through Courage. Pre-sales for the book were weak, and Dave was livid that his followers weren't buying it. And his then 4-year-old daughter, Noah, barged into frame and sweetly asked if her dad could come make her Mickey Mouse pancakes. He blew her off, saying he was talking to, quote unquote, our internet friends. And later she popped in again. Get a life, he told her. A bad joke that sounded unnecessarily harsh and certainly not in keeping with the friendly dad persona that he cultivated online.
He told a 4-year-old, he told his own 4-year-old child to get a life because she asked him to make Mickey Mouse pancakes. Oh. I actually don't know what's worse, that or the idea that he says yes and then just doesn't do it. Like, you know, like one's even worse because he says he will and then for the public image, but then doesn't do it.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
well, he was rightfully shamed for the way that he acted, which he should be. And he had to publicly apologize for the incident. And in response, he ended up checking himself into rehab in early 2022. And once he returned, he just couldn't resist continuing to chase dopamine and likes on social media. He needed to, as he put it, have his cake and eat it too.
This is where he loses me a little bit here. As somebody who, like me and you, are in the public eye, at least somewhat, with this show, with social media, whatever, fine. The problem is you're talking about how he would go through these comments obsessively. He would delete the negative ones.
Yeah.
The problem is you don't get to have your cake and eat it too. One of the things that I talk about all the time is like, me personally, I ain't cut out for this. Like long term, I don't know if that's necessarily true, whatever, but I don't relish putting my every thought out into the ether and then obsessively reading what people have to say about it. Because one, I don't find what I have to say to be particularly groundbreaking or interesting, but I do appreciate that people listen to what we have to say. But I also understand that if you're going to do that, and I point this out all the time, you have to be willing to let people who disagree with you speak on it. And the idea that you get to do both, you get to have all of that public adulation, all of the good stuff and none of the bad stuff, is a recipe for disaster, because reality will end up converging with what you want it to be, and it will fail.
Yeah. I mean, if this guy couldn't handle the public scrutiny of having a middling Instagram following, I don't think that he would have made it if he stayed at Disney and ended up getting Bob Iger's current job, because that's a whole other level of public scrutiny. I don't know if he would have had to. I don't know if he has what it takes to be Bob Iger. No, but he did have that aspiration at one point, and maybe he would be alive today if he continued there. So he continued spiraling in his private life and projecting this persona that he had it all together and that he was somebody who could influence you and be a role model for you in your life. Neighbors saw him buying alcohol as early as 7 a.m. before heading home to record podcasts with titles like "You Are Worthy of Unconditional Love."
It's just such a convergence of like different realities, right?
That's just, I don't even know what to say to that.
Yeah.
But it should tell you that you know, these people who brand themselves as self-improvement influencers definitely don't have it all together.
Yeah. But then there's the market of the people who are like, it's okay to not, like, there's a market for all of it, right? Like,
and look, his wife, after the divorce and after his death this year, is still just posting. She's still doing her thing. She's still getting brand deals and smiling in all of her pictures like nothing happened. So it just looks like some people are cut out for that kind of sociopathic level of disaffectedness and some others aren't. And that brings us to the tragic end of his story and of his life. So in February of this year, friends say that Dave Hollis got so drunk that he needed a ride home. And before Dave headed inside, he committed to attending Alcoholics Anonymous meeting and church the next morning. And when he didn't show up for the AA meeting, a family friend went to check on him, and he was found dead. His autopsy report found cocaine, fentanyl, and alcohol in his system that led to a heart failure. And the absolute worst part of this story is that he was found with his phone laying on his chest in his bed. He died in the middle of reading comments online.
It's
almost poetic.
It's indicative of like the culture that we live in now, right? Like I guess the only similar story I can think of is like the male model who died trying to take the selfie on the balcony.
Even this is just like a whole new level of tragedy. Like,
like it's so easy to fall into that rabbit hole, right? Like, look, I do my best most days. I don't look at the comments of the stuff that we make, right? I have my opinions. People are allowed to disagree with our opinions. That's all well and good. People come on the show. We agree with sometimes, we disagree sometimes. All of that's great. But when you put out tons of content, when you make yourself a public figure in any capacity, it really is a struggle you're going to have to get into. And I know plenty of people who work in this space who say, like, some of them love to get involved and they love to go back and forth with the people. And that's well and good. And if that works for them, that's great. But for me personally, I couldn't do that. So to manifest any level of sanity for myself, there just has to be like some type of cutoff there. And doing that is very, very difficult, you know, finding that middle ground. But I think also you might have to be predisposed to a certain amount of obsessiveness over other people's opinions of you, right? Like I myself probably worry about it more than I should, but I do have that cutoff, right? Where I know maybe because I've been to rehab and I've had to work on these things, but I know when it's starting to get to me, and I know when it's time to walk away from what I'm looking at and go do something else. And that requires a certain level of self-control for us, right? You can't.
Well, there's the issue with influencers is that there's a certain culling that happens once you reach a level of followers where you will only end up with either the people that have a near sociopathic disregard for what people think of them and what people say about them. And then the other camp is the people who are so obsessive about it that it controls their entire life.
Yeah.
So those are the only people that reach that upper echelon of influencers and actually survive it. And I would assume maybe his wife is in one of those camps.
Yeah. And once you, like you said, like once you reach a certain level,
Yeah.
like it's going to happen.
This is why we theorize that there is a group of influencers that are just straight up sociopaths.
Yeah.
It's actually a surprising amount of people in society that are like that just have zero regard for what people think or say about them. And that can lead to dangerous situations.
Yeah.
But then in Dave Hollis's story, he's the opposite. He can't help but care incessantly about what people say and think about him.
Yeah.
He like needs the negative feedback. It's more of a drug to him than whatever substance it was that led him to his death.
And that is what they taught when they talk about addiction, when they talk about it's when it starts to adversely affect your life, right? Like I think I mentioned yesterday, I said like whenever I mention that I like if we go out with people and like I don't drink or anything like that, they feel like I'm like judging them. But what I'm saying is no, it's what it is a commentary on me and my ability through my past to not be able to handle these things where I had to make my own changes. That doesn't mean you don't have the ability to do these things within moderation. So me saying that I can't do these things doesn't mean that other people can't do so responsibly, right? It's tailored individually to how every one of us has a different personality. It's going to affect everyone differently. For him, it very clearly seems like what happened was it started to adversely affect his life and he wasn't able to get away from that.
And this story, as sad as it is, as depressing as this story is, I think it deserves more attention, and not a lot of people have been talking about it.
No.
And it should call into question the way that you think about these self-improvement gurus in general.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it literally says here, Dave Hollis quit his job at Disney to join his wife's self-help empire, and they built a business around sharing their darkest feelings on social media. The reality was even worse. You should not be celebrated and praised and enriched by sharing your darkest feelings and insecurities and weaknesses on social media. That is not a good thing. Yeah. That is not unconditional love. That is a freak show.
Yeah.
That is people treating you like a freak show. And you may not realize it in the moment, but that is not real human connection to go on a podcast and blurb out all of the deepest, darkest fears that you have in life and overshare about your lousy sex life with your husband or about all of your body insecurities. I mean, that's something that his wife got famous off of doing.
That's crazy too, because like
it's not a good thing.
For the things that I share, there are so many other things that I would just never tell anyone about, right?
And that's a good thing. That's a healthy boundary.
Where it's like the things that I'm willing to share with people are the things that I've kind of worked my way through strongly enough where I know that I can talk about it openly. But then there's so many other things where it hits so close to home that you keep that for... That's right. Mine. It has to stay there. Otherwise, why give it power over? Why give that power to everyone else, especially people you're never going to meet or know?
And I would have thought that if this guy had a real support system of real friends who were willing to hear these things from him in a private setting, he wouldn't have needed to blast all of it on social media. So let's just put this topic to rest. I just wanted to bring it up because it is a teachable moment, unfortunately, and Prayers to his family.
I would say that if when it comes to sharing, like, work through what you can work through, and if you feel comfortable doing so, that's okay. But you have to be able to regulate and say, like, do I need to share everything, right? Like the parts of your life that you share should be the corners that you feel the most comfortable being open with. You have to understand that everyone's going to see this. People you'll never meet, people you'll never know, and you got to keep some stuff for yourself, right? The deepest insecurities that I have, I would never share with anyone, and I don't think that that's a bad thing. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with holding on to things just because.
And there's nothing inauthentic about keeping certain things private to yourself. Otherwise, you're just being self-indulgent.
Yeah.
Because you're the center of your own universe if you're forcing everyone to walk past all of your insecurities and darkest moments like a freak show, as I said.
All right, let's go Super Chats.
Shane H. Wilder said, "This is why I buy physical media. That, and it is amazing how many things I have that are not streaming anywhere."
Oh yeah, like that's a big one for me, right? There's so many shows that I love that are just not on any streaming services. The one I mentioned all the time was the underrated show Las Vegas, which was a weird boomer show about a casino that was on NBC for like 6 years, starring James Caan and Josh Duhamel, and like that's never going to end up on a streaming service. There would be no reason for it to, but I love it. So the ability to watch it is important.
Jason Dixon said justice for Mocha. Oh, he also said no justice, no peace. Hashtag Mocha for president.
Also in the chat, Scott Morgan says, I thought Cillian Murphy was pronounced Cillian. So did I, but it's not.
Yeah. He also said Andrea in the comments is a Fed. Hashtag justice for MoQ.
There will be.
Oh, and he said, who are they though? And I can do this all day. Justice for Mocha.
There will be exactly zero justice, zero peace for Mocha the derpy cat. Zero.
He also says, I am the one who knocks. No, seriously, me. Shane H. Wilder said, I already did the Kim K. Amber Alert last night. Someone else do the Batman. Maybe Tacty Platty? LOL.
All right, let's do one more and then we'll move on. We got one more.
Okay, Texas Tac Talk said, Frasier at a Trump rally is actually a really good episode idea.
There you go. That'd be great. All right, let's hold off on the rest. Let's come back. So there is this absolutely bonkers story about an influencer named Sky Wheatley. If that sounds like the name of a weird serial heiress, it's not. She is an influencer who was on Big Brother Australia, and she is now a mom influencer on social media. And she went viral because there's this video where her son is throwing a tantrum in a Kmart, and she essentially, unlike what the U.S. government claims it does, she acquiesces to the terrorist demands. She says, look, if you stop crying, I will give you what you want, which was what, a bucket, right?
It was, I don't know, some kind of toy that this kid just wanted so badly that he was writhing around on the floor in the fluorescent lights of a Kmart. And she posted this video. Let's react to the video. I want to know what you guys think.
All right, here we go.
Honey, you're going to break it. Up you get off the floor. Okay, if you get off the floor, you can have it. Jump up. Jump up. Calm down. Are you going to stop throwing it on the ground? Are you going to stop throwing it? Are you going to stop throwing it? Stand up, please. Stand up.
Crazy walk BOSS things when we walk through you.
Gonna get muted for that.
Yeah. So the ending shows that the kid got what he wanted. He was rewarded for his behavior in the Kmart.
Look,
and I mean, she's getting a lot of hate because this is the trend of gentle parenting, right?
Yeah.
Where you kind of acquiesce to everything your kid demands or asks for, and you give in to these behaviors that are gonna follow them later in life. And I mean, I'm sure that she doesn't always do this, right? It would be a bad thing if she does. And I'm not a parent, so I don't know what it's like, but there are a lot of comments
Tim
from
would say
moms
send them
that
to
were
the
saying,
mines.
you know, I relate to this. One said, as a mom of 3, there's no way I would have bought him anything after throwing a tantrum like that. And she replied, wow, your kids must be angels, jealous. And then other moms said, I have absolutely zero judgment for giving in. We are only human, girl. Another said, unfortunately, with toddlers and their big emotions, we just got to pick our battles. So this was brought up as an example of that, where she didn't pick her battle that day. She decided to let him win that day.
Let's be fair here. You and I, neither of us are parents, so we can't know what it's like to be in this position. But I understand. Look, I worked in retail for a lot of years and saw a lot of kids hold their parents hostage for extended periods of time. And to these parents' credit, most of them didn't give in. Like, most of them said, if you keep doing that, you're not going to get anything for dinner, which, always.
Was this ever your personal experience? Were you a kid that threw a lot of tantrums?
I don't remember.
You don't remember?
I don't remember. I do remember one example, maybe. That's not really relevant here. Like, I can't think of anything that I did, but that's very young, right? You're at a very young age at that time period. Maybe I could ask my dad someday, like, did mom have any? Okay. I don't know my mom, but like my dad, if my dad had any stores, like, hey dad, did I ever hold you hostage at a store because I wanted bubble gum? Because I wanted Big League Chew and you wouldn't buy me the Big League Chew. I
remember that I was I've been told I was a very well-behaved baby, but then once I was a toddler, I just threw the most demonic tantrums, and the rest of the time I would be totally quiet and well-behaved. Thank you.
I buy you as quiet and well-behaved.
Quiet, well-behaved, a little bit creepy.
I buy that.
There was this one time, this is funny. There was this time when I was like, I must have been 3 or 4 years old, and I got out of my little kid bed in the middle of the night and walked downstairs and just stood still by the radiator that we had downstairs. Hello?
Second crisis party for free? This is like the second time it's done that.
Yeah, what is this?
What is that?
We're not giving handouts.
Does anybody want to make us whole on that free third crisis party?
Yeah.
What the hell was that?
Well, I just stood there silently by the radiator after I walked downstairs in the middle of the night, and I just waited.
There we go.
Okay, then it stopped.
Okay.
But I just sat there and waited, and they heard someone walking around, so they thought there was like a home invasion. My parents like walked downstairs and started looking around and hoping there wasn't a burglar inside, and I just stood there watching them look around for me.
Yeah.
In plain sight, and then like just imagine in the darkness like stumbling upon
creepy Mary,
your 3-year-old just standing there being like, hello.
I mean, I see you absolutely like that's a trope in movies, is the creepy kid.
And that was
I
me.
bet you would have been a great creepy kid in a movie.
That was me. I was literally the ghost girl as a kid.
Like if they made maybe they already did this. Maybe if they made like the all-female Children of the Corn with the female lead child rather than the boy, you could totally do that.
Yeah. And the rest of the time, I just had like occasionally these most demonic, inconsolable tantrums, and it wasn't even like this kid did. I wasn't demanding anything. I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't want anything. I was just like going insane. Because I, like, from being well-behaved the rest of the time, I just needed to, like, explode and just scream. And then they would splash my face with cold water, and then I just stopped. Isn't that
sensory overload?
Try that. How's that for a solution? Just splash your kid in the face with cold water and see if they snap out of it.
She just sprays it.
Yeah, that wouldn't have worked on me, but the cold water, yeah. I don't know. I just remember that, like, I would just be quiet and well-behaved all the time, and I had to let it all out.
I was my brother was my brother was more quiet. My brother didn't ever have trouble sleeping, didn't wake up in the middle of the night. I, on the other hand, even to this day, was a terror and was constant, never slept, always awake, probably not the easiest kid to raise. So,
Sure.
but I was also not, I was never in trouble, or anything like that. But I don't know if I threw any tantrums. I wish, if my dad was ever on the show, he could probably tell you some fantastic examples of that.
I would say, like, if your kid is throwing a tantrum about wanting a stupid toy at Kmart, it's probably not the toy that they're screaming about. Like, maybe there's something else going on. But also, I would say this, the mommy influencer culture and the mommy Facebook group culture is the most toxic place you can find on the internet. It's worse than 4chan. It's worse than incel forums. It is the most toxic environment that you can find online, and you will get judged and dragged for doing literally anything or nothing.
The actual toxic gossip train is the mommy influencer. The mommy influencer shows. Especially, I think was it Libby who was talking about like the Facebook, like the mom Facebook groups are just the most evil places.
They are.
They are, right?
It's true.
Also, somebody else points out, they said like you're shoving a phone in the kid's face.
No, that's another thing. Like, of course, if I had a tantrum in the age of smartphones, that would not help anything. That would not help the situation. And more so than I would criticize her for her parenting style, I criticize recording your kid having one of the lowest moments and posting it for millions of people to see. That's bad.
We haven't even
unequivocally, I can say that's a bad idea.
We haven't even reached the age yet where back in the day, your parents embarrassed you by showing your friends your baby photo, your embarrassing photos. Now, they show the entire world you're embarrassing.
You show the baby TikToks.
Yeah, like one day you're going to be an adult. First of all, this kid's going to have to grow up and his friends are going to be talking about how hot his mom is. That's the real problem, right?
Yeah.
Because so that's going to happen. And then after that happens, they're going to be going through and like, hey, look at this video when you were young and you were acting like a complete idiot. And then they'll be laughing at him and clowning on him. And the kids who have parents that didn't treat their kids like social media credit coins will not have to worry about that because their parents had the good sense to not put them front and center as a way of, chasing clout online.
How would this kid feel about it 10 years from now?
It's a
20 years from now down the line. People scrutinized him for having a tantrum when he was 4 years old.
One day.
It's just not a good idea.
One day, in the future, this kid, he's going to be engaged, he's going to get married, and he's going to be arguing with his girlfriend, and she's going to be like, I don't want my son to be like, and she's going to use this as some type of got you to him.
What, our kids are going to behave like this?
Yeah.
No, it'll be like, that video of you having a tantrum when you were 4 years old really gave me the ick, babe.
She's like, dude,
I got curious about this lady, Sky Wheatley, and I went to her YouTube page, and the first thing that I see is, a thumbnail of her crying in her car titled, in all caps, "Boob Job Vlog." This is not the most common experience for
Boob
moms
job
these
vlog
days.
doesn't bother me. Crying to your phone bothers
Feel
me.
bad for me. I
You're
got a
faking
botched
it.
boob job.
We don't even, and we're not even, remember the video of the mom who's like trying to do the thumbnail crying with the kid?
that was worse than anything I've ever seen from mommy vloggers. So I read her bio on YouTube, which is probably over a decade old. It says, "Hi everyone, I'm Sky Wheatley. I like long walks on the beach, getting super drunk and passing out, humpback riding, jumping out of planes, and getting super high on this awesome new drug called Live." Just kidding.
You have to say that while doing this.
Called Live. Just kidding. I'm 20 years old and I'm currently holding auditions to find my perfect girl. Haha, joking. I'm pretty sure I'm straight. I'm super new to YouTube, so if anyone has any pointers, I'm all ears.
She's literally like twirling her hair as she's typing this.
So, she seems like a nice lady. I
just think a little bit misguided about where it's going to be down the line for the kid.
Misguided about posting him in general, but as far as the parenting style is concerned, what's trendy right now obviously is gentle parenting, where if your kid starts crying or having a tantrum, you get down on the floor and you look them in the eyes and you do all these therapy psychobabble talk at them, and you say, "I understand your big feelings and you're valid and I see you, but you can't have a cookie right now." And that's just not really going to produce the most emotionally stable and well-adjusted generation in the future. I don't have good predictions for how this turns out.
I love the conversations whenever somebody has the guts to bring up. So hitting your kids. What do you guys think about it? And then people
Look, can we ever have a happy medium? Is that ever possible? Why does it have to be two extremes on the internet every single time? You either are the gentle parenting mom where everything is beige and everything is cushioned like an insane asylum in your home, and you see their big feelings and validate them, or you're a violent child beater.
Yep.
Does it have to be one or the other?
But it's also like weirdly like, but then there's also like the trope of like throwing the shoe, right? Like
the chancla.
Yeah, like some of it's like romanticized and some of it is not, right? So I don't know. Well,
everyone always says like, I was hit as a kid and I turned out fine, but then they kind of didn't turn out fine, and then in the future we're gonna see 20 years from now, I was gentle parented as a kid and I turned out fine, and then to find that they're still more depressed and anxious than Gen Z is today.
Yeah. Yep.
So
all right, let's go.
Time will only tell.
Time will tell. Let's go to Super Chats.
Shell Beach said, defining woke is very simple. The term woke refers to the radical fundamentalist wing of the contemporary secular theocracy known as liberalism. Hold on, let me write that down and commit it to memory the next time someone asks me.
The problem is, dude, if you tell that to anyone who is not really deeply into the core of the culture war and politics, a lot of that won't make any sense to them. I really think, to me, I understand that it's not a definition, but when you talk to people now, if you want a good way of looking at it for people who aren't politically initiated, ask it like when they watch commercials now, and they're like, when was the last time you saw like a white couple in a commercial, right? Mm-hmm. Not a mixed race couple or something like that. Is that inherently woke? I would say in today's world of DEI and incentives through like subsidies for them to do commercials a certain way and certain types of investing, yes, that falls into that category. So you know it when you see it, right? It just seems off.
It's
Something
always
about
weird
it seems off
when I see these ads for dating apps, because they're targeted to me as a young female. That's who they want to be downloading Tinder and downloading Bumble and all these things. The ads always show either a mixed race couple or it's a white girl that's swiping right on a black guy. I'm not saying like, I'm not passing any judgment or whatever, but like, why is that what is being projected in the advertisements?
In a lot
There's
of
a
ways
reason
right
behind
now,
it.
because it's in the literature for their business models now. It's part of their.
It's in the rubric.
It's in the DEI initiatives and the things that they're pushing. And
right.
Like, look, I was talking yesterday about the Skittles ad about queer joy. And I said, what does that have to do with candy?
And then there's the Delta ad about disability joy. I don't understand what any of these words mean.
I don't know what any of it has to do with the product that you're selling me.
Obviously
right?
nothing.
Like, and actually the other definition, I go, guys, if you have not seen the skit Levi Wokes from Saturday Night Live, watch that skit, but just imagine it's serious, right? Genderless, style neutral denim.
5 years later, that's what we have.
For a generation, it's literally satire, and within 5 years, it was completely the norm for our society right now. And you watch, he says, he's like, what does he say in these? He says, Levi Wokes are for everybody because they fit nobody. And it really is the core of what society has become. The color, he goes, do you know what color these jeans are? They're the color Greb. He says, it's a bunch of different colors, none of which are dominant, just like our country. Like it's so satirical and ridiculous, but it's actually what they believe now. Yeah. But they were willing to laugh at about it in 2017.
The Ninja Bear said, Mary, we know you're a fuddy-duddy, by the way. We haven't got your info for the club yet. Justified never had a new season. I deny the existence of bad seasons and reboots, so I don't ruin them. Brent, you rule.
Thank you. Yes, I regretted trying to watch that. It's not a reboot. It's a continuation called Justified City Primeval. And I quit within an episode I couldn't watch. And it had a bunch of great actors in it. That's the sad part. It had all these actors that, like, it had Ingenue Ellis in it. I love Ingenue Ellis as an actress, but in this show, it just drags it down. It just sucked.
Texas Tac Talk said, when your family asks when you're having kids, they're actually just trolling you for not getting laid.
Is that true? I have no idea.
In a certain sense.
But isn't that question more common for women than men? Like, I don't get that. Or maybe it just means my dad has no faith that I'm going to
I mean, everyone should be pestered to make grandbabies. Just a Stranger said, you guys should go see Godzilla -1 and give a review. I mean, I just feel like if we don't review something when it comes out, it's kind of past the point where it's relevant. But
also, people are always doing the like dub and sub thing. Like, I prefer both.
Oh, is it in Japanese?
Yeah, it's sub only.
Okay.
So I always have a problem with that because I need dub and sub.
The Ninja Bear said, if something offends you personally, just don't watch. Why feel the need to impose your personal views or experiences on others? Free speech is inherently offensive, but should never be suppressed.
I don't disagree.
Joe Watland said, why can't we just acknowledge that Ricky made a bad joke? Maybe he's not that funny. Everyone move on with their life. Why were you watching him anyway?
That's the other thing is, like, we talked about this with the Matt Rife bit, right? Where we're like, look, I don't think the joke was funny, but it wasn't offensive. It was just a mediocre joke.
I didn't find it offensive, nor did I find it funny. And the whole format of stand-up is tired to me at this point. Trauma Llama said, I saw your video on the Lady Ballers premiere and Brett looked great in a suit and Mary had her typical emo cute vibes and I loved her banter with Clavin. Yeah, that was fun.
You guys should go watch that video after the episode today. It was a lot of, like, this is one of those things where, like, people were making comments on both that video and the review that we all looked extremely tired. That's because it was like 3 days of, we got done with episode
Look, 500. It was a hard week.
It was a rough week. We got done with episode 500. Mary, you flew out that night. I flew out me, Wesley, and Taylor flew out the next morning. We did that, like, within one day. Like, we did it. We showed up that day. We did the premiere, and then we flew back the next day and spent the whole day traveling. So it was a lot of back and forth, and, but it was a lot of fun.
Joe Watland said, love you guys so much, but you should always have guests. There has to be people who want to be on your sweet-ass show.
Well, we do Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, but Monday and Tuesday, you get just us. What's wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with that. Bucky Ducky said Mary's weakness is holy water. She truly is a ghost.
Maybe that's what it was. Your parents were actually hitting you with holy water.
It wasn't holy water. It was tap water.
I promise.
Kilo Bravo said, as a parent, I will say I'd never let my kid do this. As a sergeant, you can tell which of your troops had shitty parents and parenting.
I don't doubt that.
Rascal King said, the Rascal King is 1 week out of rehab and 44 days sober. Tough choice, but 100% the right one for the Rascal King. ...
My friend, first of all, welcome back. I haven't seen you in a while. And congratulations, man. Keep up the hard work. It's a long road. It's not going to always be easy, but it's absolutely worth it. And congratulations on your journey.
I hope that you weren't super chatting us just because you were drunk or high. Yeah. Okay, username I'm not going to read said, I threw a tantrum once in public and my dad took me outside to have a talk and it never happened again. After that, if I started to act up, he'd give me the look and I knew to chill.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely wouldn't have thrown the tantrum in front of my dad. It would have been my mom that I would have been.
I did with both, with anyone. They were a victim to my tantrums. High Voltage 75 said Tiny Mary making Ben look like a giant in person, or was he wearing DeSantis heels? Be honest.
The other thing that was funny about that, yes, was the glaring height difference between me and you and everyone in the movie.
We're short people.
Look,
I don't know what to say.
It was a movie about basketball, all right? Like, who was I standing next to?
David Cohn,
yeah,
I believe.
And I'm like, and who would buy you as a basketball player? And I put the mic up here because he's like 3 feet taller.
Literally
than me.
reaching up with your tippy toes.
Yeah, like it's like that joke where the meme where it says like my boyfriend was me and my boyfriend were arguing and he sent me this picture and it's a picture from up here and she's looking up at him and he's like, I can't take you seriously because she's so tiny. So
but Ben Shapiro is not, even though the rumors say he's 5'4", he is not 5'4". He's just an average height guy and I'm short, so he looked like he was towering over me.
All right, guys, before we go, would you please hit the like button on this video, and would you subscribe to this channel if you have not done so already? Again, we have passed 81,000 subscribers. We are on the way to 100,000 subscribers right now. We'll get to 200,000 one day, right? That'd be great. So we are on our way to 100,000 subscribers. We are very excited about that. So go ahead and subscribe. Share these videos with your friends so that other people can get in here, hang out with us for these live streams and these segments. Mary, where can they find you?
You can send me validation on Instagram at Mary Archived, or you can send me hate on X. That is also Mary Archived. And again, if you haven't seen our full red carpet premiere video, you should go do that after we sign off.
Yep. And we got one more here from High Voltage 70. Oh, no, I'm sorry. From Shane H. Wilder. He says, congrats to the Rascal King. Keep it up, brother. Yes, absolutely. High Voltage 75 says, what do you think is contributing the most to the recent accelerated growth of subs?
Us trying less. No, I don't know.
So
the algorithm is fickle.
It is.
We don't try to analyze it that closely.
I can give you the actual answer because we've had certain YouTube shorts that have gone particularly viral.
Well, yeah,
lately.
we decided to start posting 2 shorts a day instead of 1, and that helps in the algorithm. That's what they want you to post.
A large amount of our subscriber growth was coming from both shorts and segments, and very little was coming from the lives, because the people who are tuning into the lives are the people that have already been subscribed, right? So I was looking one day and it says we're getting almost as many subs from YouTube shorts as we are. So 22 YouTube shorts a month were netting us almost as many subscribers as 93 segment videos, right? It's like, why don't we double the short, content and hopefully get people in here with interesting topic points and see if people want to come in here and check it out. And it seems to be bearing out that that's working. So yeah. And we got one more here from Philip W. Says, have you watched The Critical Drinker? Let's go. Yes, I'm a very big fan. Like, if anything, if in a perfect world, I would be able to articulate my thoughts and ideas maybe a quarter as well as he manages to do every single time he makes a video. So I love his content a lot. So have you ever watched any of his stuff?
No, to be honest, before I came here, I didn't know who any of these YouTubers were.
Well, then now you're very aware.
Yeah.
All right, guys, if you would like to follow me, you can follow me on Instagram and on Twix at Brett Dasovic on both of those platforms. PCC is here 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's noon Pacific. Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, and Spotify if you would like to listen rather than watch. And if you'd like to follow us on social media, we are on Twix at popculture_show. Facebook and TikTok at Pop Culture Crisis, Instagram at Pop Culture Crisis Pod. Guys, we will see you back here tomorrow with another episode. Bye, guys.
Bye.